Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Metagame Show Host. That is Meta Game Show Host, M-E-T-A, not Met a Game Show Host, but hopefully I will someday.
I think, Allison, you've probably met a game show host, right? Like, almost certainly.
That sounds right. I immediately thought of James Woods, who has the kind of vibe, but I don't think he was.
Oh, I would watch a game show hosted by James Woods.
Wouldn't you though?
I feel like I've met a lot of people with game show host energy.
Yeah.
But not an official game show host.
Yes, for sure.
We
Actually,
got the whole crew with us today.
Steve Harvey and I.
Yes, I'm Kyle. Hi.
We got Allison.
Hello, I'm Allison.
We've got Ian, our child of destiny.
That's me, yeah. Because I'm a survivor. I ain't gonna give up.
Ooh.
This is the only game show I am familiar with, and game show is stretching that definition a little bit thin in this case.
No, it's not. It's fine.
This is definitely a game show. We are watching, or we're not watching, we've watched, and we're talking about Survivor. Outplay, outwit, outlast.
Cue Ian singing again.
I was going to, but I decided not to.
Oh, no. Okay.
So,
Outplayed, outlast. I need the lyrics up.
outwit. I don't think those are lyrics, but...
Yeah, they are.
Guys,
Hamilton.
let's just go around a circle. We'll see how many seasons of Survivor we've seen. I've seen about 12 seasons of Survivor so far.
I would roughly guess that I've seen 8 maybe at this point. I'm kind of just off the top of my head.
I grew up watching Survivor, and I know I at least watched to season 25 growing up. And then I've rewatched all the 12 seasons I've showed Kyle. So I mean, total still is only 25 probably.
I like how you've shown Kyle 12 seasons, but he only claims
8.
to have seen 8.
That sounds about right.
You said 8?
Yeah.
I thought you said 12.
Ricky said 12.
Oh, rip. Oh. I've said Kyle whatever he said.
I did the other way, the new Allison. I grew up watching Survivor, and I have not rewatched. And so I watched 4 or 5 seasons growing up. I'm currently halfway through a season now, and that's all the Survivor I've watched. So I'm the baby of the group, and I get to make a bunch of unfounded claims where you get to go, no, you're an idiot, and keep moving on.
Yay! We need it.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do first here is we're going to go through the average flow of an episode of Survivor, not a game of Survivor, but an episode of Survivor.
Okay.
So the average episode of a Survivor is a 3-day cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So we always have day 1 is going to be a little bit of social interaction on the beach.
Right.
And then we get the reward challenge, which is a challenge where there's a reward to win.
Mm-hmm.
Like a luxury reward, usually.
A luxury
right?
reward, or some of them are not so luxury. We'll get into the reward challenges a little bit later.
Right.
Then day 2 is an entire day of just living on the camp.
Usually.
With day 3 being the big day of every cycle, where we have an immunity challenge, and the losing tribe or the losing people all go to this little thing called Tribal Council.
I have seen this. This does vary a little bit, but you're definitely right at the core of it. Sometimes they will do reward challenges earlier, and then they do the second challenge, which is also reward and tribal sometimes. And then, I don't know, they mixed it up. And then sometimes they only do one challenge, which is reward and tribal at the same time, and didn't do the other one. Different seasons do different things. It's kind of weird, but what you mentioned is definitely the standard that I'm used to.
So
episode 1 always skips the first challenge because you have the Marooning.
Right.
Oh, right, okay.
And you have to introduce all the players.
Maybe that's what I'm remembering.
Is it always 39 days exactly? I always thought that was a weird number of days, but that makes sense if it's
39 days exactly.
Welcome to picture perfect budgeting.
Means if you see, so it's generally between, I think 14 is the lowest number of people they've brought, and 20 is the highest number of people they've brought.
20 must have been the season when we split into races, right? Because that was each 5 per thing.
Maybe.
Is
did they
all
do
the
a race war season?
The re-person seasons, when they bring more people back.
They did do a racial season. It was very early.
So good.
I'm pretty sure it was before 10, actually. It was early. It was not something they could do now.
It was not before 10.
No.
It was a square. It was not widescreen. That's all I remember.
I split Survivor into SD and HD Survivor.
Yes, exactly.
It's a good one. They split into Hispanic, Asian, white, and black.
Yeah.
And it's it's good TV. I don't know. It's good TV.
There's a lot of interesting gimmicks to the seasons. Well, definitely, there's going to be a point where we discuss all the gimmicks and which ones are good. Which
there's
ones
so many good ones.
Gotcha.
There's some real bad ones too. Unfortunately.
No, we need to talk about the rewards.
At the end of the 3-day cycle, we go to Tribal Council, and somebody, or multiple people sometimes, if you're on a 20-person season, guess what? There's going to be some double limbs.
Woo!
But we were going to kick somebody out, and we kick them out by voting them off. This is sort of like the original vote off show.
Right. You've been voted off the island.
Before this, nobody really has done, I don't think, a show where like contestants get voted off by the other contestants.
When do we get to talk about the meme potential? Survivor created its own entirety of memes.
I think it's fair to say that Survivor created reality competition game showing. I
do too. I think that's fair.
It's really the oldest. It's the most successful. It's still going. 40 seasons. My God.
Yeah.
41 coming up soon. Crazy show.
Right. Okay. So you said, all right. So then they vote people out. Was that the last explanation for the flow?
And then of course, all in between all the challenges and tribals and stuff, you are literally you're given, I believe, half a cup of rice per person per day.
Woo.
Yeah.
And you're given a well with water. In the early seasons, you are not given that, and you have to boil the water.
So this is
this
actually
changes throughout the show. It's really interesting to watch.
I just wanted I don't want to throw off our thing too much, but I just wanted to throw out as a newcomer to the show, when Allison was first showing it to me, I was not familiar with reality shows just in general. I just didn't watch many of them about before 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Look how Kyle has class.
I'd seen clips of them, and I was like, these are obviously not actually real, and I don't like the weird contrived scenarios or the people they have on them. And Allison was like, I think you'd like Survivor. And I was like, I'll give it a shot. I just don't see that happening. And then I watched a few episodes, and I was like, oh my God, this is all, they're all actually having to do this. None of this is actually fake.
Yeah,
and that's the part that caught my attention.
That guy has really got a bug in his ear. That guy is really cut up his feet to the point where they're bleeding from trying to climb a tree.
Well, and the biggest thing was there weren't actually rules. They were like, you have to do these things. These are the activities that are happening. But if you just come up with a weird thing we hadn't thought of, we're not going to stop you. It felt like DMing in a weird way.
Right, so
exactly. The big deal, of course, is this is what you find with reality TV show is you have shows that don't care what you do as long as it's good TV. But the real trick, we're past the 60s game show scandals where it was all fake. It's all real now. It's just that the editing is fake. You're bringing force-fed narratives.
Right, always.
Right. There are different editing conspiracies. The infamous Purple Kelly edit, in which one character in a season of Survivor makes it very far into the game, but is only shown on camera, I think, 3 times.
Yes.
Oh.
So
to the point where she's basically invisible. If you're not doing things that are interesting, you probably aren't going to get a lot of TV
We just watched
time.
a season that does this.
This does happen occasionally. A lot of people who end up in the there's always this sneaky person who is the one you don't see, but they end up in the final 3 because they just laid low the whole game.
So I wanted to just say one thing real fast. So Survivor, I'm a diehard early season Survivor fan, early before season 20 probably. And the reason for that is I watched Survivor make the mistakes and then fix them as a show. Because guaranteed water, shelter, fire, and food was not a thing for the first couple seasons. There was one really Survivor history moment. A guy got mad and threw out the entire bag of rice. He just filled it with sand and then dumped the bags and stuff because he was angry that he was at the bottom and potentially going to be voted out. And they did not have food for 3 days until it got bad enough that I assume the next season they didn't do that. Every season, there's always one season where they're we haven't got a fire. There was another season where they did not have a fire for 5 days, and Jeff had to give them the fire tribal. So this happens later. And this is why I like the early seasons too, is to watch kind of the struggle of the newbies, and then season 26, and it's every return player already has 4 bags of rice that they found, and they all know how to get coconuts down. So I'm diehard early season. That's all I'm saying.
The survival aspect is very real, and it's it's really weird because They do give you rice, and there is a well of fresh drinking water, but they give you all of the rice at the beginning of the show.
Right.
So, like, every 3-day cycle, you are given the 3 days of rice. Like, it's a half a cup of rice per person in your tribe.
So you're getting it in 3-day increments.
Right. So, like, if you leave your rice just out in the open and it rots, over, you don't eat the next 2 days.
Yep.
Or if, like, somebody decides to just, like, double scoop the rice into the pot and eat more rice than the other people do, then you're probably short on rice on the last day of your 3-day cycle.
This does happen.
You have to go out, like, and rice is not protein. Like, you have to go out fishing. Yeah. You have to go out and, like, find other ways to eat food.
These are the things I love about Survivor. This is my favorite. This is why I'm part of the diehard old season stuff, is because I really love this part.
Even in the new seasons, like, it still is a survival aspect. People still go out from heat stroke all the time.
Yeah, but I remember the days where they had to get a map to tell them where their freshwater drinking well was. Right. Like, now with seasons, they just like have it. That's but like true. Earlier seasons, they like got to the island and they're like, we got to find water first. But like, do you find water? Do you make the tent? Do you get the food? Like, what are you going to do first? And like, I'm all for that.
That's a good point. They were like, I hadn't really like noticed that in watching some of the new ones, but it does like, it's like they just sort of don't really touch up on it, I guess, in like really recent ones. But I do remember watching some of the originals, and it was like, you were on a shipwreck. Like, deal with that reality.
People are ripping their shirts off just to get something over the tent so that they're not dying from a monsoon that hit.
So in terms of like supplies and things that you start with at camp, so the season I'm watching right now is China.
Right.
Which is season 15.
And so it's an earlier one.
It's season 15 right now where they start out. They have them all pack up a bunch of suitcases and bring it to this like Buddhist temple. And they say, leave the suitcases. We're just going to burn the suitcase. Is that normal?
No, that was a gimmick for that season, and I loved it. It was great. No, they do different, like, what you're allowed to have every season, kind of, because there was one season where they told everyone to dress nice because they weren't going straight to the island. They were going to a meeting and, like, an interview thing first. And so the women, and then they just like, sorry, we were joking. You can earn your swimsuits back in like 6 days.
When they were on the boat or whatever, right? And they were just like, they were dressed up because they thought they were going to the event. And they were like, we're starting right now. Jump off take what you can and jump off
Women
the boat.
are like throwing their heels overboard, like, I'm not doing this. And they're like ripping their skirts in half. Like, I guess I'm on the island with my underwear for the next 7 days. So no, that's, they do different things.
One big thing that's important in the survival aspect, and something that's sort of been meted pretty decently, is the raised bamboo platform.
Right, you call this the Metacall.
Yeah.
The shelter of choice.
You get a raised bamboo platform, you get the slanty roof on it so that the water rolls off. Boom.
Yeah.
Before this innovation of Survivor gameplay, every shelter looked a little bit different, and sometimes you have the Russell Death Pit.
The Russell
Death Pit? Yes.
Russell just dug a burrow.
Yeah.
And like they came back from a challenge one time, and like it collapsed.
Oh,
and everybody was just like, "Oh, like we were probably dead if we were in there when it collapsed. Why did we ever get into the hole with the bearded man?"
It's like that's a great way to like, even if you live, you're sharing it with like every bug and every snake in the world.
And I remember this moment, too, because there was so much pushback. His idea was, what we'll do is we'll dig a hole into the beach.
In, like, the sand?
Yes.
That's a horrible idea.
We'll build the shelter in the hole. It was like a
muddy-ish beach, but still.
Yeah.
I think the trick is you build the burrow so you can get all the snakes, or you build a separate shelter for the snakes. And I cannot stress to you how much I don't want to sleep on the ground.
They don't. The big thing, a big, huge thing is getting your little shelter at least a foot off the ground.
Yeah, agreed. Right. Yeah.
Which is important for like tide and also getting sand out of the shelter and also like crabs and stuff not bothering you while you're sleeping. It is still impossible to get sleep on the show.
I don't know when they started doing this, because I don't think it happened till at least 5 seasons in, but anyone who goes on Survivor has a full survival training
do they do
thing
Survivor boot
paid
camp?
For. Yeah, they basically teach every single person going in how to make a fire, basics of making a shelter, and like stripping different types of wood to make like ties for that.
Also
like,
teach them how to use that weird magical self-launching fishing pole they all use.
They do teach them how to fish. Not everyone's good at it. Like if you suck at it, that's just it. Like if you didn't learn in 3 days, boo for you. But they do at least teach everybody.
You are given a machete also. That's in your camp. You always get a machete.
In the bougie later seasons, maybe. No, I think they do. I think
they
do.
Make a big deal of it. It's like, I mean, it kind of just looks like a lost machete. Like it's just a sharp piece of metal. Like people just have been part of an airplane.
Wait, does anybody know what that fishing spear is or how it works? Because I'm actually still baffled by how that thing works.
We have not seen it in my season yet.
They swim underwater and they hold it in their hand and then it just shoots out of their hand and I don't know what it is they're doing to activate it. It's really weird.
It's like some kind of spring activated thing and they hold it tight and then they let go and it shoots.
So it can't be it's not like tech or anything. Like it's got to be like physics, but I don't know what's happening with it.
I don't know.
It's like a fishing
option though.
Is it the worst?
Fishing is a very good transition, though, to get us to the prize challenges.
Well,
okay.
Ian, in your season, I don't even think they have it, because in China, the waters are, swampy, right?
That's true. They're not
It's a bit, they did this fun thing where people, as part of the rewards, they got, they were taught, quote-unquote, how to fish, but this family just brought their tame fishing birds, and they tie, they tie strings around the birds' necks, so they can't swallow the fish, and here, go grab the fish. I got it out of your throat. This is a cool thing, but there's no way that we're gonna be able to do this later.
Right.
Okay, we have to talk about the immunity stuff now.
Ricky was on to talk about the other
prize challenges first.
Okay.
We'll sort of wrap prize and immunity challenges together, but essentially there's a challenge or two every single episode, and what happens in these challenges is you're pulled away to a set, essentially, where they've built a big elaborate challenge that either you individually or you with your tribe are going to compete in, and the first challenge is for a prize, and so this is very big for camp morale and also for the survival aspect. There is always a hierarchy of prizes. The first episode of every season, the first prize is a flint.
Woo!
Or fire-making implement.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
That's always the first one. And the second prize challenge is tools and a tarp.
Yeah.
And that tarp is the most valuable thing in this game. If you are in a rain season, you are so done without a tarp.
I'm trying to think of anything more important as a reward. And sometimes anything to get food is really important, but I do think the tarp is probably the best thing you could get in the show.
I will say anybody that hasn't had the tarp
100% rainproofs your shelter.
Yeah.
Which keeps you from freezing at night and staying up all night.
Yep. Then the third challenge is always fishing gear.
Okay.
Fishing gear is always the third challenge, and normally also the fourth, because fishing gear is so important, especially in Modern Survivor where they're always on a beach, right?
Yeah,
right.
They'll double
in early Survivor, they go all sorts of places, and fishing sometimes isn't available.
Mm-hmm.
But in Modern Survivor, you're always on a beach, and so the fishing gear is very, very important. So for the fourth challenge, they will offer you fishing gear or sweets.
Yeah,
Hey.
I've always noticed that, or at least in the last 2 or 3 I've seen early on, they'll do salt and pepper and spices and stuff, which is a newer thing. But I'm always like, boo! I want a pillow.
They always offer the comfort ones. The big comfort challenge, the big comfort prizes that you are there's chairs and pillows, which is nice.
Blankets and pillows.
There's always the coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Coffee is always a big one because it comes with sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I would say so. It seems to me pillows. I don't think pillows are that big of a deal. If you've ever tried sleeping without a pillow, all you're bringing is something to raise your head up. How soft it is doesn't actually matter. Life hack.
Right.
Fair enough.
But blankets, I think blankets are a huge deal.
That seems
keeps you from.
Well, so they don't always touch up on this, but some seasons they do. So these people who probably hate each other and are going to stab each other in the back, they are snuggled.
Yeah.
I mean,
so this is the big problem. What's really outrageous about this season is there's just bona fide sexual assault happening.
There's a couple
that doesn't always happen.
It's bad, and they do address it on those seasons.
Do they? Because so far it's just this one guy just constantly sneaking
it's John.
up with these.
Yeah, that is standout. He's known for that. It's standout. It does not happen every season. It's super weird and awful.
Okay, that's good to see because it was really off-putting.
It's horrible.
in Modern Survivor, there was a season I was watching, I think it was season 38, where there's a guy who's an early vote off, right? And like he was being extra creepy, and so he got like this extra creeper edit.
Yeah.
And, like in the show, just like edited in all this like, hey, I don't like you touching me, like stuff, right?
Yeah, you gotta be careful because you're basically just submitting yourself to be a character in these people's like shows that they're writing.
This is the editing thing. It's
don't
like you
touch
give the
people.
camera something, or they will find something.
Right.
No, we're on a Redemption Island season, which I've seen different varieties of Redemption Island and things, but this was the first one I've seen that did it this way. And you get voted off, and then you have a chance to come back if you beat people the next person voted off in an immunity or in immunity challenge. But that means that 2 people are going to go stay at an island somewhere else. And it's always funny to me because usually whoever was voted off first was voted off by the next person who goes to the island.
Right, yeah.
And they're going to have to snuggle. Like, that's all they have. It gets so cold that these people are on top of each other, desperately trying not to freeze in the middle of the night. And I'm just like
this is why I think blankets are important. Like, blankets stave off sexual assault is what I got from my season so far.
Have you watched the first Redemption Island season?
No.
I don't think so.
Slight tangent here. The first person voted off goes to Redemption Island, and in this season, and in every season until a point where it gets abused, you're allowed to bring a personal item. In this season, you only get it once you're voted out onto Redemption Island. His personal item is a Bible.
No.
This kid runs a like full-on Christian evangelist, like kumbaya, like mini tribe on Redemption Island.
What?
He beats every single person on Redemption Island.
What?
And like it cuts back to Redemption Island, and it's like 2 people talking about Jesus, and it's just like the most wholesome stuff ever.
So like a real life paladin gets voted out early and then just dominates on the Redemption Island.
Yeah,
I love it.
And then like comes back, gets voted back to Redemption Island immediately, and then has a God is testing me edit.
This sounds horrible.
It's amazing. Anyways,
so the immunity challenges.
Right, immunity challenges or
immunity
reward.
challenges are the same thing as a prize challenge, but the prize is better because your tribe, there's 2 to 3 tribes, and the first and second place tribe, or aka the not last tribe,
Right.
will be safe from the vote out and tribal council. This is the most important challenge to win.
Right.
Period.
The immunity one?
The immunity challenge.
Yeah.
It keeps your tribe together. And there are times where it's happened many times where people throw this challenge to try to vote somebody out that they think is a problem on their tribe.
This happens sometimes. It's really not that often, I don't think, in Survivor that happens.
I've seen it at least like 3 or 4 times.
Well, I think it's because you're watching the really like popular seasons, which is like everyone's freaking out about it because they do crazy shit like that. So it doesn't. Yeah, go ahead.
I think it has to be a bad idea because after the merge, you want to have the majority, right? You want to have plurality.
Yeah, definitely a tactic.
So the first 2 seasons of Survivor you ever watch, you're going to go like, wow, these are such unique and interesting challenges. And then later, you go, oh, I love this one. Oh, I like this one. But there are really a big variety of challenges, but I've got them down into 5 categories of challenges.
Okay.
Challenge number 1 is, I think, the most popular type of challenge pre-merge.
Okay.
When you still have 2 tribes.
Right.
So number 1 is race with a puzzle.
Right.
This is any sort of team challenge where you have to do something physical, be it lug a giant snake,
right,
or like find buoys in the water and take them back to your camp, or just literally run under like wires and stuff.
Right.
Just time wasting.
You are essentially trying to do something very physical, and at the end of all the physical stuff, there will be a literal, actual, factual puzzle.
Right.
I will, if I ever have to go on Survivor, I will spend at least 1 solid month of preparation just doing sliding puzzles every day.
Right,
I hate those so much.
So I will never go on Survivor because the sliding puzzles, like IRL, the little like cheapy toys you get at McDonald's Happy Meal, I have broken every single one of those out of pure rage and anger.
I've heard that sliding puzzles are big. Right where I am, everything is wooden pegs.
They're actually they're not that big.
But-
they do happen a lot. They're big. They're popular because they mess people up really bad. But it's all kinds of puzzles.
I feel like sliding puzzles. It's like a Rubik's Cube. Once you learn the algorithms and how to move like a piece to a piece, like you just have to learn how to
That's
do it
probably
once.
true.
Yeah, it is. It is true, and you can see people dominate. Like you can tell who like beefed up their slide puzzle brain before they got to Survivor.
All of the puzzles at the end of this are the key.
Right.
Yeah.
It does
that's
not
true.
matter how far behind you are in the race. The puzzle will take so long, and most of these puzzles are designed in a way that once you see the puzzle, like once you get the puzzle, it's an easy solve. But until then, you're literally like hopeless, right? Like, it'll be like, it'll sound easy, like make this puzzle of a crab, right? But like all the pieces are just all like rectangles.
Yeah.
Just a real quick tangent. Just looking at this, the outline we're using. Ricky, you and I are both signed into Google accounts, but Kyle and Allison, y'all are just here as Anonymous Liger. And I really appreciate that.
And Anonymous Dragon.
That's weird.
Oh, nice. I think you should list all of the challenge types just like in order, and then we can talk about
Yeah,
them.
sorry, I just got triggered about the sliding puzzle, but please continue.
We then have pure physical challenges. These are challenges that are only physical strength. This is, be it like carrying something or racing, or the infamous fight challenges that happen.
That's pretty great.
They
Those are
happen a
crazy.
lot more in early seasons.
Yes.
In the late seasons, we've learned to not actually have people like fist fight each other.
Right, well, I think because people will fight no matter what you do. You don't need to encourage the fighting.
Right.
It's pretty wild. The pure fighting things can get completely out of hand.
Number 3 is pure puzzle. And now these are normally memory. The most infamous one is the memory block. The memory block is it happens every season.
Yeah.
You get a cube, and all 6 sides are a different symbol. And then Jeff will show you 7 symbols, and then you have to recall the sequence one at a time on your cube. Very good game, not gonna lie. Very fun puzzle. There's also like you have to remember a bunch of numbers and then run underneath something that's annoying and then put in those numbers. Mm-hmm. And some of them are just everybody does this like little peg puzzle until somebody beats it. And then we have team building puzzles. These are team building exercises. These are all pre-merge, of course. And these are like you have 3 barrels and 2 boards, and you have to get the floor is lava, get your whole team across.
Right.
Or
Seen those.
things like that. There's various literally it's just a team building exercise. There's always the weird people getting dunked in water and having to spit it out at the top.
You're missing one type of challenge, and I'm waiting for you to finish the list so that I can tell you what it is.
Okay. I'm going to say the last one is endurance. These normally happen after the merge when we're playing individually, and these are do something uncomfortable for a long amount of time. The most common ones being hang on a pole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or stand on your tiptoes.
One of the worst one of the worst challenges that I get flashbacks on is they'll do one where they're in water. The whole team has to run in a circle while attached to a snake kind of thing, like one big chained heavyweight thing.
Oh, the one when they're waist deep water and
you have to run through it constantly. And if you drop out, you have to give your bag to someone else. And so usually it ends with 2 men with the entire team's weight, and they're running through waist deep water because you can't stop running or else you lose. And those always just those hurt my soul. But the challenge that you're missing is the disgusting food challenge, which
literally happens twice, I think. Maybe
no, it happens all the time in the early seasons, all the time. And then,
I do think it's less frequent, and I definitely have decreased it in later seasons. But it is its own its own category. That
every season I watched growing up, because I watched in order. I remember my family would have to discuss if we were going to watch that episode because it only happens once every season that it does happen in. and it's notorious.
In the first 5 seasons, and that's it.
No, because there's going to be one in China too. I know it's China season 15.
I think there is one in China.
The problem with these challenges are, and this is the problem with this challenge in any form of media, is how immediately they get racist. Because it's like it's immediately like, this is something that people in rural China eat all the time, and just watching a bunch of privileged white people go, I don't want to eat that. It's just like,
yeah, John actually has the same problem with the eating challenges. Actually,
interesting.
So I watched one that was usually the setup for that one is 2 teams split, and then Jeff will produce some type of gross item that both teams have to compete. They send one person up to eat that thing. Whoever swallows it and gets it all down first wins that round. And depending on how it goes, sometimes Jeff will accidentally introduce like a good thing and people are like, I can eat that cookie. And then sometimes it's awful the entire time. But they stopped doing that, I think probably because it was racist, it was awful, who knows? There was a lot of reasons why. But Kyle and I just watched a season where they kind of brought that element back in a different way, which is that each team had a giant pig, what's that called?
Like on a spit.
Rotating over a fire.
Oh, no, I know about this challenge because it's considered one of the worst challenges ever.
Yeah,
Kyle didn't watch it. He left, but I sat and my stomach was sick. And what they do is they have their hands tied behind their back. They run up to this thing, grab as much meat as they can, run back, drop it in like a little container
with their
that
mouth,
they
in case
weigh.
That was unclear.
Right, yeah, all with your mouth. And it was the most viscerally horrifying thing I've ever seen, because you get food stuck in your mouth and someone else has to get it out of your mouth with their mouth.
No.
And then half the weight of both these containers is spit. It's just spit. And I watched all of it happen. And I think this is the end. I think this is where it all ends. And at the tribal, Jeff was asking people like about the challenge. And he said it was one of the highest rates of injury through any challenge ever, because people cut their mouth, they lost teeth, they messed up their, the skin around was cracking and cuts.
It's even worse because it was a reward challenge, and the reward was the reward was the meat.
Yes, the reward was the meat. They took home the meat.
The reward was the meat that your team won.
Yeah.
Because they were all excited. Jeff shows them the 2 roasted pigs cooked really well, and they're like, oh yeah, I can't wait to play for this reward. And he's like, and the way you're gonna do it is you're not gonna eat it. You have to the correct play was to just sit and eat. Pig with
I completely agree.
And let the other tribe play.
It was actually, I think it was an immunity challenge.
Was it immunity?
I think it was immunity, and you got to take home the meat that you collected. But literally they walk off, and one girl's like, "Well, just wash off the spit." And I'm like, "Oh no!"
They literally, you see them at the well, washing the pig meat that they all bit off the pig.
Oh my god!
It's literally the worst challenge in all of Survivor.
Yeah, it's not even in a good enough season. So
the other really funny reward challenge. It's a reward challenge. It's not an immunity challenge. There's a really weird challenge in the first season of Survivor, and it's very funny because of some behind the scenes stuff. But essentially, it was you had to jump into mud and then climb back out and scrape the mud off you.
I've seen those.
Whoever got the most mud off of them won the challenge. And originally, because it's the first season of Survivor, nobody's ever done this, and the reward challenges are supposed to be wow, look at what these people will do for just a little bit of fried chicken or whatever, right? So this time it was you get 1 Bud Light beer. And
among everybody?
Yeah.
Or each person gets one?
It's whoever does the most, so it's individual.
Oh, okay.
There's also one other type, food related. So I think there's probably just a whole category of food stuff. But there's one other type where people can they each go and they give money. It's a
I was gonna say there's auctions sometimes.
Food auctions.
You can talk about auctions real quick. Anyways, the point is nobody did the beer challenge.
Oh, really?
Okay, sorry, I interrupted.
Literally everybody told Jeff that prize wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
And so they all refused to play. So Jeff stops everything. So this is behind the scenes, right? You don't get to see this on the edit. But Jeff stops everything, goes and talks to production, and then he comes back to them and says, guys, the whoever wins this reward gets a burger with me and a bucket of beers at the Survivor bar.
Right. So Survivor runs on sponsors, like big sponsors. And so I bet that probably took but there was probably a lot of talk between Jeff and the producers of the show. Like, guys, they don't like the Bud Light beer. Like, this is not going to look good. Like, what do we tell the sponsors?
That's a good point.
Doesn't matter. Okay. I was just going to throw those in.
They do, yeah. Just the other thing that we've seen them do is the auctions, which I've only seen them show up sometimes. But they'll have it's not even really a challenge. It's just sort of like a breath, like a beat, sort of later in the show where they'll, instead of a challenge, they'll have everybody come in. They get an amount of fake money, and then Jeff will present a covered up thing they can bid on, and they can choose to spend the money, and then it's revealed whatever they
Sometimes
bought.
It's good, sometimes it's bad, and sometimes it's a hint to the immunity idol. So
here's the thing: the auction will never come back because it's been broken.
Oh yeah, what happened with that again?
There is a season, because what happens is the auction is always a bunch of food. It might be good, it might be bad, and then the second to last item is going to be a letter written by a loved one from home. And what happens there is whoever wins the bid, Jeff will then offer the rest of the letters at the same price as the winning bid, because that way people don't have to go out without the letter from home. And then after that, there's an immunity idol.
Oh, right.
Or an immunity clue.
Yeah.
And that's always the last thing. So one season, at the beginning of the auction, one woman stands up and looks at the rest of the players and says, guys, Jeff sells the letter for home at whoever wins the bid. Let me bid $1.
Yeah.
And then nobody bid. And we can all get our letters for home for $1.
Yeah.
And then there's 5 people that sit and they don't bid on anything. And when it comes to the letters from home, they all look at each other and they're like, we'll all agree to buy our letter from home for $1.
See,
if all 5 of us agree.
See, but this is why Survivor is fantastic. 1, that's a hell of a moment. And 2,
no, it definitely is.
I know seasons where that would never work. It's really hard to break Survivor because despite that being absolutely brilliant and there's a chance that it would work again, I know people, or I know seasons of groups that they would not be on board with that.
It's also really easy to bring the auction back if you just say, just auction the letter first. Now we can have the rest of the auction.
Right.
The other thing is everybody holds all their money for the very end.
Right.
And then everybody max bets, essentially the 4 people or the 2 alliance heads or whoever is in trouble plus the alliance heads at the end, they're going to hold all their money for the immunity clue or the advantage.
Yeah, I would buy the burger.
They all max bid.
But that's the interesting. Not to spend too much time on the challenges, but they also introduced a new thing that I've started seeing in more recent ones, where there are certain challenges where he'll be like, "If you're confident that you don't need immunity right now, we'll give you food instead."
Yeah,
but you have to decide that you're not competing for the immunity idol.
For a real immunity challenge, everyone has to stand on a tiny pole and hold up buckets of water or whatever. Occasionally, Jeff will also offer to anyone who feels safe, here's a pile of donuts.
Right. and you're allowed to eat as much as you can as long as people are still playing.
Right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. All right.
Different endurance.
Lots of people do it. Lots of people go for it. So after that, we have after the challenges, we have the post-challenge scramble.
Best part.
Which is the social game. This is where people realize that they are on the bottom, or they are trying to figure out who is the bottom of their tribe to get voted out. It doesn't matter how well you're doing in the game, how much you're contributing to your tribe, or anything like that, because somebody's getting voted off, and it doesn't have to be the weakest person.
Right.
Often, early, it is going to be people who are weaker because we want to just win as a team.
Mm-hmm.
But it gets really tense with just having to run around. You want to talk strategy. You get with groups of people while other people are gone and just be like, hey, Jeff is out there getting water. How about Jeff? He smells bad, right?
I love this part of the game.
This is the
can you
deepest
vote? Has anyone
part
ever tried
of
to
the
vote
game.
off Jeff Probst?
They would,
See what happened.
they would be the most hated person of Survivor. Nobody dislikes Jeff.
Isn't there there's like a big meme that the one day the twist is going to be Jeff grabs a buff and puts it on and starts playing?
That would be amazing.
Oh my god, that would be fantastic. So I love this part of the game. I think because it's the core of Survivor, which is expectations, which is like you can think you really know what's going to happen, and a lot of this comes with the editing too.
Right.
Because, after watching 25 seasons of Survivor, you kind of catch on, which is like they didn't really show enough of that person in the edit, so they're probably not going home, or like, just like little things here and there. But for the most part, it's really interesting to see who is swayed by what and who just like lays down and takes it.
Yeah.
They're always my least favorite people who are like, I'm on the bottom, so I guess I'm just
But
going
this
to
is
eat a
also a
bunch of
strat.
rocks until I
This
get
is-
voted off.
This is also a strat. Multiple times you can see people that are like, it's like, all right, guys, you guys have been clear that I'm the bottom. I'm the vote out. So I'm just going to enjoy my last day here on the beach, and y'all can take it easy. And you know what happens then when somebody decides they're going to take it?
They eat at themselves.
then the other people are like,
Is this
Well,
a
they're
good
giving up.
idea?
they've given up. That's an easy vote.
Right.
We can get rid of them whenever we want.
Exactly.
Who should we actually get rid of?
True.
Right.
This
So I
is
think
right.
I don't know if there's a point in the podcast that we can do this, but I think we should all talk about our strategy if we all thought we were the bottom and what we would do.
Oh, this is easy.
Survivor is a numbers game.
So you always say this about every game. I'm not sure about this one.
This one actually gets said the most. This is this literally gets said twice every season by players.
Yeah, but it's
Literally
like
every game.
it's a half truth.
But isn't it always said by players who are just about to get voted out? Like,
Not always. No,
So-
Survivor
so-
is a numbers game.
but there are no numbers.
There are
Right.
lots of numbers.
You're both
I don't
right.
see any numbers. so where I am currently in Survivor, this hasn't gotten interesting yet. What happens is there's one person who's causing a stink at camp, usually with another person, and one of those two people goes home every time.
Yeah. That will
up
change,
until-
especially in your season.
At least halfway through this, halfway through the season so far, it's like it's interesting, but it's only interesting between two people, and it's definitely not involving the whole camp.
Can I ask who the two people are right now?
We just went through Sharia and Dave.
Ah, okay. All right. Yeah.
The brilliant things about the show that really make this process more complicated the further it goes is like at the beginning it's very easy. You vote out like the first person to go home is the one who sucked the most. That's it.
Right.
Like that's pretty much all. But like the
Usually.
further it goes, you first start trying to vote out people that aren't like with you, so that your personal alliance stays strong.
yeah.
But then also, as it gets closer to the end, the entire winning state of the whole game is it's you and one or two other people, and the winner is being voted on by like the last 10 people who got voted out.
Right.
So you're trying to balance this whole thing of like, who do I want to take with me? Probably someone unlikable or less likable
very
than
end.
me.
Right.
And also, I don't want to anger the people I'm voting out so much that then they hate me and won't give me the money.
That's the second half of the game. The first
The
half of the
big
game is
thing-
like, who do you want on your team,
Yeah.
basically.
The big thing about post-challenge Scramble, in my opinion, if you are not getting talked to, that is bad.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's a good
Or-
point.
If one person comes up and tells you who to vote for alone,
It's probably a lie.
you are getting blindsided. Here's the thing.
Might be true.
So the blind side is, of course, you don't ever want to tell the person that's going out that they are going out. Even if it's the easiest vote out ever, right? You cannot, even as a group, go up to that person and go, it's you tonight.
That's true.
Right.
Sorry.
Okay, so
'Cause
here's
if
my
you
question
do
about the
that-
strategy.
Yeah, go ahead.
At that point, it's too late.
What?
If you're not getting talked to,
yeah.
at that point, there is no strategy left for you. You
It's
are gone.
not too late.
So I don't agree.
It's never too late. And this is why you don't tell people they're the out. Because here's what you can do. 1, the baby route. You can put out the fire, throw away the rice. You can just fuck with everything in the camp. That's the baby not gonna win, but I'm throwing a fit because you told me I'm out. But here's the real thing you can do. You can go digging for idols.
Right, but this is only if you know that. So this is if you don't, if nobody's talking to you, you should be digging for idols.
If nobody's been talking to you, you need to start talking to other people.
I agree with that.
You seem like, especially if you can get a big group together, because the big thing that happens almost every time when you go back is that the majority alliance, all of them are going to get together, and the leader is going to go, "Any ideas for tonight?" It's Kenneth, right?
Right.
And then all of them go, Kenneth. One guy goes, "I'll vote for Kenneth, but I want Dave out," right?
Right.
And they're like, "Well, Kenneth is the vote." And then they all spread out. And then the last thing I always asked in this little huddle is go, "Who do we tell Kenneth to vote for?"
Right.
Easy. Dave.
They're
right?
so... Yeah.
And if you are not part of that huddle is hard to recreate again and organize again.
Right, because they've already done it. They don't really have any... There's no real benefit to them huddling with you, Kenneth, right?
I've seen people get out of it still, though.
I have too. So there's so much strategy that really depends on... I would say that the reason people get voted out is because they have no idea what's going on. You need to pay attention to everyone else's dynamic with other people. You're going to know who's comfortable and who's not. And I think the people who get voted out, like, most of the time, they just don't know what's happening between other people. Because it's real easy to just, like, one little just, like, bug in the ear to someone like, "Hey, I think this person is going to do this next." And suddenly, like, I didn't think they were going to do that next.
I will say the Worm Tongues, the Peter Bailishes, they're the ones that make it to the final three. They may not win, but like the Weasley people, Sandra.
It's those people who just like, they're like, I might be going home, but instead I'll just casually lay back and be like, "Hey, don't you think it's weird that blank does blank?" And then someone's like...
I think...
The Doctor Who, right? The I don't think she looks tired?
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Okay, so let's say you are Kenneth, right? The huddle has happened. You are not part of the huddle.
Yeah.
It is difficult to recreate the huddle. What do?
You have to get a side alliance going.
And if you don't have one already?
You need to get with people and be like, "Hey, like, this person over here is in charge, and they're going to be a problem come the merge. What you're not doing, you stop playing for this tribal, and you play for tribals down the line, and you try to convince people like, hey, everyone thinks that I'm an easy out, which means it's a perfect time if we get the numbers."
Well, but this only works if you aren't an actual problem, right?
So here's the thing. You already know Steve wants Dave out, right?
I want to...
How do you know that?
I want to introduce another part of this to you, Ian, that might help. Which is that in the earlier seasons, okay, so there's basically two ways that this goes, which is that you just have like knockout seasons, which is they all have an alliance and they just take people out one by one by one. Super boring, hate those seasons. No one ever likes those seasons. And then there's the seasons that people remember, and people want to be in the seasons that people remember. So there's actually a very small element at play, but especially in the later seasons where people go, I want to make a big move. And people say that all the time. And so the only, like, if I was Kenneth in this, I would only think about the fact that people want to be remembered, and a lot of people on Survivor want to have, like, that moment. So that's the only thing I would introduce as, like, to you maybe that could potentially change this, because there's so much to think about. But realistically, everyone kind of wants a name for themselves. So if you can just convince them that, like, this would be really freaking cool if you did it, that might be the best thing in your favor.
Another big thing is that 3 people make it to the end. The top 3 people don't have to vote each other out at the end. They just go and get voted on by the jury, which we'll get to in a bit. But, like, the big thing is, why this is a numbers game is, yes, you might have a group of 5 in the, like, majority versus a group of 2 in the minority, right?
Mm-hmm.
But are you number 1 in that alliance, or are you number 4?
That's true. That is usually what they play on. If you're number 4, you're not going to the top 3. So you can be 4 in that alliance of 5, or you can be 3 on the alliance of 2 over here. And that doesn't sound very good. But if you also make the same promise to 5 and 4, or if you make the same promise to 5,
Now suddenly we're at a 4-3 alliance, and you're winning.
This is a good tangent. Go ahead.
The big thing is...
You're on a team of 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you switch over to a team of 3, right?
Right.
And now they vote all you out because they have the numbers.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. Is like that's true. But what I'm saying is you're making the promise to number 5 and number 4 that they're both going to be number 3 on your alliance.
Oh, but you're already number 5.
Right. No,
but you're already on the bottom.
So I want to introduce my strategy, which is very simple in theory. Every single day should be treated as the only way you make a decision. People who go, I'm going to make decisions that'll bring me to the end, does not work. It doesn't work. It will occasionally work on the really boring seasons when they like knock people out one by one. But if you live to survive that night, you're putting in a lot of work, but those people almost always win. From what I've taken away is like, if you're planning 8 days ahead, people are going to sniff you out and get nervous. But if you're making sure you make it through that one day, then you're usually playing a pretty good game and you're going under people's radar because they're not really paying attention to you necessarily. So this is my strategy, which is live day by day, every single time. Switch it up when you need to because that's a new day and you just have to figure out how to make it through that one.
So I think the most powerful phrase, I feel like when you see players on the show, if they utter this one phrase, you need to be like, it goes under the radar all the time when people say this. And they like do so well in the game. The phrase is, I'll vote for whoever you tell me as long as it's not me. Do you know who says that? Sandra.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Like, do you know who says that? Parvati. Like,
yes.
Amber. People who say that go all the way. Like, it's such a, like, it's so low radar. It's not like, hey, I want to win. It's like, I'll vote for who you tell me. You want to be, a big thing in this game is you want to be the second in command.
It's funny because you literally listed like my 3 least favorite Survivor players because they are the most weaselly, spineless, like out of control players in all of Survivor that I'll never hate. Like, I cannot hate any Survivors more than those people. They are just...
I hated Boston Rob a lot more than Amber.
Ooh, I'll talk about Boston Rob in a bit.
Boston Rob was an utter scumbag.
I don't remember liking Boston Rob.
We've got to get to Tribal. We're already going to go for 2 hours.
It's all right. It's worth it.
It's okay. No, it's worth it.
All
Tribal.
Right. Tribal.
Is the last part of every episode cycle. You all go. You get a torch. You dip it in and get fire. This fire represents your life. Without it, you are dead. That's what he says. And you will sit in a semicircle around Jeff Prost, professional shit stirrer. Jeff Prost.
Does it so
this
beautifully.
Is important. This is really important because you don't just vote. Jeff is going to ask questions.
Yeah, no, that's true.
And these are important ass questions.
But he doesn't just ask questions. He asks God questions. His producers whisper in his ears.
Questions.
He's all knowing, and I love it because he knows exactly what to ask and who.
This is the ruin the workroom problem, which is Jeff asks questions that editing has already decided will become problems.
Mm-hmm.
And if you just ignore him, you do a lot better.
True.
Yes.
Yeah. No.
You have to have like a politician answer for Jeff.
For sure. If you go in there unconfident, you're in trouble.
Yep.
As a tribe, you should all say, whatever Jeff says, we already have our vote set. Ignore Jeff.
Yes.
This is a big thing. And another Sandra quote here is, Jeff, why are you asking me the trust question? You only ask that of somebody who's not trustworthy.
Yeah, if you could play Jeff, you can play the game.
If Jeff is asking somebody, do you think trust is important in an alliance? Knock that person out.
Yeah.
Stop them.
So I will say, I learned that tribal council can be anywhere from like 1 to 3 hours long.
Oh yeah. Always.
So it's a huge thing.
It's the weirdest thing ever. Everybody has to decide to start voting. And it's come up in the most recent season I've been watching, but like they were sitting in tribal forever arguing, and like it's like, is it time to vote? And one girl goes, I don't consent. And
Interesting.
it's just like, it's like, do you have a reason to not consent? And then she's just like, I just don't know how I'm voting. And then just like, okay, let's go.
Wow, interesting.
Like,
I didn't know that. But
tribals are crazy. And while you are sitting in the semicircle, you don't have to stay in the semicircle.
I think realistically, though, it wouldn't be as good of a game. You could know what's happening in Survivor by just watching the tribals every time.
Yeah.
Like, if you really didn't want to watch the show, just watch the tribals of every episode, and you'll know what's going on. It just won't be nearly as good or exciting. But
like I said, because Jeff only asks questions based on what editing has already decided will happen.
Right. There's a lot of I guess, like, post-production, not even post, like, behind-the-scenes stuff that goes on to make Survivor work, including the way he reads the votes and stuff. It's a whole thing.
The votes aren't faked, but he does read them in the order that is the most dramatic.
Right.
Always.
Yeah. How much time does that take, though? Because, like, every person has to go, then they have to vote, then they have to, sit around waiting while the crew takes Jeff aside, reads all the votes, tell him which one would make the most sense. Like, I just think it's a beautifully working system that they've got going on, because it comes together so well.
When you're voting, now here's the thing. You get the questions and then you vote. Sometimes big plays happen at Tribal. I can think of one of my favorite seasons where just like one player in the middle of a Tribal where they are, as a tribe, one person has just been commanding like this person out, this person out, this person out. And just like in the middle of it, one guy stands up. He's not the bottom. You want to also, there's another thing. You want to make moves when you're second from the bottom, not when you are the bottom.
Right. Anyways, when you're in the bottom, you're done.
He realizes what's going on. He just stands up and goes, guys, I'm voting Brad, which is the leader. He's like, do you guys want to do it with me? And just throws it out there. And they end up knocking Brad out and just move on with the game. Like, now the whole alliance toppled and they start eating the alliance backwards.
I will say that one of the most annoying things about Survivor is I'm not going to say I'm one of those people who would play like an honest game, because that's bullcrap, and I hate when people say that. But right. I would not keep the secrets that people keep. Like, a lot of the times people will be like, I'm the one going home, I guess I'll just keep everything to myself. And I'm like, no, out them.
There have been a couple people where, like, as they're leaving, they're like, he has the idol.
He has the idol. These three are together. These two are planning this all day. If I'm going, I'm wrecking shop. And I just, everyone who's done that. No, I disagree.
Okay.
I disagree. I've seen this work.
Two tribals where players have been eliminated without a vote. One of them happens, in which case, like, one person is, like, not even near the bottom, but he's trying to, like, pressure somebody who is at the bottom, and it's just, like, suddenly just starts accusing them of being gay.
Oh, no, not that. That's not what I'm talking about. Out, no, I know, literally out people.
I'm just saying. Remember, you are playing a game, be human.
No, I'm not. Yeah, don't. Yeah. It's never personal.
Absolutely.
He says some hateful things, and then Jeff is like, guys, do we know what needs to be done here? And, like, all of them are like, yep.
Oh,
bye.
Oh, wow. Can you imagine being that disgraced?
The other one is the Zeke Controversy.
I thought that's what you were talking about.
There's two of these. The Zeke Controversy is there's a trans player who didn't want to be known as trans, and one person, while they're on the way out, is just like, this person is deceiving you because they are trans.
Yeesh.
So it happens with gay and trans. Okay, well, yeah. But no, I mean, I think give away every game secret you can.
Yes.
What use does that
Allison's just talking about.
Game secrets are different, yes, for sure.
That's the definition of making a big move, right?
One of my favorite players actually did this, which is that she found out that people, like, brought her name up once, and she was having absolutely none of it. And she was like, these two, they're sleeping together. These three, this is their alliance. This guy, he's got the idol, and he told all of these people and not you. And she stayed that day, because I know they sat in Tribal going, like, every single one of them was like, oh no. She eventually got voted out for being too smart. She planned out the entire game of Survival and who she was taking to the end and how and why. And that scared her own alliance into being like, she's too smart, she's gotta go. She's one of my favorites forever.
What a great transition into idols.
Okay.
Let's talk about idols.
Let's do it.
One of my favorite parts of the entire game is in this topic, for sure.
Idols are a trinket. It doesn't matter what it is. When you find it, it comes with a certificate of authenticity, which is important.
That's true.
And you want to keep these hidden. If you have one, you are going to be a big target. You normally get clues from, like, they'll be hidden out in the open or, like, hidden in your prizes or something like that to find where the idol is. Eventually, we get to a point in the game, thanks to the innovation of one Russell Hands, to just realize that, hey, they already hid the idols.
Yeah.
We can just go find them.
Right.
We don't
Without
need
needing the clues. Yeah.
But essentially what happens is after the votes are placed before they are read, you may play an idol. And you may play it on any player. That player is safe, and any votes cast for them do not count.
Yeah.
Which is huge, because the ideal idol play, the quote idol out, is that there's an easy vote out. It's like 5 against 1. The 5 all vote for the 1. The 1 votes for the head of the pyramid, right? And then the one guy had the idol. Now all 5 of his votes don't count against him, but his 1 vote against the top of their alliance does, and they're gone.
So, tiny bit of Survivor, not like history, but just experience with this gimmick of the game. This wasn't always a thing. I remember when it first got introduced, and it was a really big deal because obviously no one knew to look for it. Then there was maybe 2 seasons where people knew it was around but had no idea how to look for it. Then there was the season where the one guy was like, we already know it's here, I'm going to go look for it. And that changed the game forever. So idols are just an inherent part of the game now. They've also done different things with the idols, like in vote outs or at Tribal. They did one season where you had to hold on to the idol until after the votes were read, which caused a lot of anticipation. But it was way too hard to like.
Yeah, they tried that a few different ways.
It didn't work that great because it was like everyone already voted, and then you gave the idol to someone, but then they knew exactly who to give it to because the votes were read. And I think the standard now is you give the idol, you use it on yourself, or give it to whoever you want before the votes are cast, or before they're read, or something like that.
This also creates the best situation of all of Survivor and how you end up on worst Survivor player lists of all time. The infamous going home with an idol in your pocket.
That's the worst.
Okay, well, so here's a question about idols real quick.
Right.
Statistically, how many people have been saved by an idol and then won?
A lot of people have been saved by idols and lost.
Right, because it seems to me that most of the time, like,
it happens. I can think of it happening for sure. I couldn't tell you statistically, but at least 2 or 3 seasons.
Statistically, idols don't matter.
I would agree with that.
They always do matter.
How?
Because in order to win, you got to make it to the end.
Well, it depends. So the idols also expire. I think after like 4 people are left, there's no idols anymore.
No more idols.
Right.
So on the 5-person night.
The only idol that matters is an idol that saves somebody who eventually wins.
I personally do not think the idol is worth it. I'm with you, Ian. I think it puts the target on your back too big, and the only point of the idol is to make alliances. The only point of the idol is to draw people into you.
It's actually a better social tool than actually using it for its function.
I would pretty much never use it. I would go home with an idol in my pocket rather than use it, probably because I'd be blindsided ultimately, because I would only use the idol for social, and I wouldn't go looking for it.
And actually, once again, on that note,
oh yeah, Kyle's got a story.
So this is what sold me on the entire show. I just happened to watch this season where I think it's the first time this happened. In the first season I watched, there's a man named Bob, and if I were on Survivor, I would be Bob. Yes. Bob is who I would want to be.
I agree.
Bob was a 50-something-year-old high school science teacher. I've
seen Breaking Bad.
He just built stuff. That's pretty much all he did. He showed up and he just like built their shelters and the camp and stuff. He was just a cool guy.
Tall, unassuming.
This was one of the seasons where they had Exile Island, which is a little feature I'm sure we'll get to at some point, which occasionally somebody, just as a twist of the game, would be sent off on their own. And they'd have to like spend the night or two on a completely different island, totally isolated.
Right.
And different people had different effects from this. Some people came back weaker and some people came back stronger, just depending on like who they were. Bob got sent here once, and he spent the entire time foraging through the forest and finding supplies and using his science knowledge to build his own idol that was so convincing that Jeff wasn't even sure if it was one of theirs.
Yep.
And he was able to trick people with it and like form alliances and stuff, and then eventually it got played and Jeff had to like call people in to check and see if it was actually one of their idols because he couldn't tell. And that was the thing that sold me on the show, because I was like, that, like, in any other TV show, that seems like that wouldn't have been allowed. Like, they would have been like, no, you can't do that. Stop. We're taking it away.
Right.
But they just let him do it, and it was amazing.
It was really brilliant. And I think, so this brings one of my least favorite elements of Survivor, which is that one person does something really brilliant, and then everyone does it every single season after that. And it gets a little old because, like, you know, by season 36, 4 people have made their own fake idol, and you're just like...
None of them were ever as good as Bob's, though.
None of them were ever as good as Bob. But I'm just saying, like, it happens all the time, and it's like, that one season where it first happened was groundbreaking. And Bob is easily one of the favorite players, like, of all time. And he never came back, because how are you gonna live up to your own legacy?
Right.
But it does happen all the time now. Now everyone's just like, I made an idol, and it's like a rock with a little circle on it. It's like it's gonna trick everybody, but everyone knows to expect.
Everyone's like, I think they built their own idol.
See, this is why I like early seasons, because everyone knows what to expect later. But the early seasons is really where I think a lot of the fun gameplay is. Anyway, that's just me being a hipster about a Survivor.
Rick Devens is a new player on a season that has new and returning players on it.
Who?
Rick Devens. He sits on the bottom of his tribe for many, many things. He gets 3 idols over the course of the game. And when he got the 3rd idol, he revealed that, you know, like confessional, that he had saved all the paperwork that came with the idols. Then he made fake idols and retied the clues, re-hid the clues, re-hid the fake idols with the paperwork for the fake idol.
Oh, to trick other people into thinking they had one?
That's what Bob
in
did.
the place where the clue was leading to.
Yeah.
And literally, all of his fake idols got found. They found the clue, they got excited, they found the idol in the place the clue said.
Yeah.
And then the next tribal... 3 people went up to Jeff and tried to turn in immunity idols. And he, one by one, goes, this is not an immunity idol. This is not an immunity idol. And then at the very end, Rick Devens strolls up and he's like, well, I got one, Jeff, and I think mine will be quite genuine.
That's just like, that's a good twist to an old trick. I like it.
That is amazing.
Smart.
I know, this is infuriating to me. The idea that I would be punished for playing the game how I was told to play it.
I'm with you.
I would quit.
I agree. Some of the humiliation aspects that exist on Survivor would make me just leave. I'd be like, I'm not having any of that. Screw you guys. Y'all are too. And I think that's kind of the big thing about Survivors. It can be like a really dirty, miserable game. It really can.
Thing to discuss in Tribal is ties and going to rocks.
Oh, yeah.
Going to what?
This is the most exciting Survivor ever gets when it happens.
No.
But when you tie a vote, what happens is both players who are on the tie, they are not allowed to vote. And you have a re-vote for just the 2 of them.
Just a runoff?
If that ties... then we do what's called going to rocks. When you go to rocks, the 2 players that had been voted up are both safe, and every other player is going to draw a rock from the bag, and whoever pulls the white rock is eliminated.
Yeah, it's
nice.
Anyone, any single person. So
any person except for if you have the individual immunity necklace or had an idol plate on you.
So really, only the ones who weren't in danger of going home that night are the ones that are suddenly in danger.
This makes sense because it encourages making decisions.
Right. Yes, it does. So, okay, I have more Survivor history on this, which is that originally, when this happened, instead of going to rocks, the 2 people who were voted out had to make a fire. And then there was a little like beam of yarn above where the fire would be, and whoever made the fire first and the biggest would burn the yarn, and they got to stay. And this happened for a good amount of time. This happened for a few seasons up until they voted out. They was between 2 of the weakest, worst people in Survivor,
Survivor,
and they both had to go make the fire. It took over 4 hours for them to get the fire started.
Like, it's a whole, like, fading from one shot to another time lapse in the episode.
2 a.m. before they ever get done. And it just, like, cuts back to, like, the whole team just being like, we fucked this up. This was just miserable.
Right, no, this makes sense. This is the problem with, this is, again, kind of, this is, the RuPaul issue, slash kind of benefit there, but it's like, if you're talking about the 2 weakest players, you can't presume they're going to do it right.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, they canceled that aspect of it, and then they just came down to rocks later, which I do think is a better thing because it does punish the people who couldn't make a decision.
Yeah. And
rather than rewarding the one who was better at making a fire, which it ended after that, and it's been rocks ever since.
So here's how rocks is used. The way you use rocks, right? Mm-hmm. If there is a big alliance and you have an even number, and you can get a small alliance of equal numbers, right? So we have 2 alliances of the same size, one that is all made of people from the bottom and one that's made of people from the top.
Well, how is one team on the bottom and one team on the top if it's numbers? If it's 4 and 4, then...
So this is the infamous, like, there's like 6 people left.
Right.
We have our alliance of 4 and the people of 2, and they go with the, hey, Monica, you're number 4 with them, but you could be number 3 with us, and we get the split. And what you do is you don't vote for the top of the big alliance. You vote for the number 3 on the big alliance. And then when you get the tie, you look at the other team, right? And you go, that's your number 3. Will you go to rocks for him? Because we'll go to rocks for anybody on our team.
Yeah, the using punishments as a tool is always kind of interesting. I've seen people force tribals and rocks maybe like 3 times in the whole show. Well, and it's always an interesting strategy to go like, are we just going to lose to vote this person out? Or are we going to sit in tribal and go like, are we just going to go to rocks and we just can't figure it out kind of thing? So it doesn't happen very often.
This exact situation happened. And the 2 guys that were like the number 1 and number 2 to like win the whole thing with the big alliance, right? Mm-hmm. Like they had their weakest of the 3 of them picked for the up on rocks, right? Mm-hmm. And then the other one had the weakest of theirs also up, right? Yeah. And they're both like, we're willing to go to rocks. The number 1 guy has 2 idols. Like if he makes it through this tribal, him and his partner are safe and they win, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the biggest thing, and he like sits there and he can just sell out his third person, but for some crazy reason, he decides to go to rocks.
What an idiot. What an idiot.
And doesn't get eliminated. It eliminates one of the people on the lower, and it's so heartbreaking, but it was so tense. It was like, are we going to see the biggest shakeup ever? Rocks is super exciting.
If you have rocks, if you have immunity, though, you don't have to go on rocks, right?
Yeah, if you have immunity, but you can't play the idol once the votes are revealed.
Oh, this is not so okay. So you've already had. So the fact that he had 2 immunity idols didn't really matter.
Yeah, he was going to go out with them in his pocket.
As usual, okay.
But
okay,
yeah, no, the rocks is very exciting, and that comes up every now and then.
This is such a spoiler, big podcast.
No, we're not saying any names or season for the most part.
That's true.
Here's a question about the numbers game. Do people refer to each other as a number 3 in that alliance or not?
They will. When you get towards the end of the game, people will start saying that. I've heard they do all often. Like, yes, the guy who's running the cult alliance, right? He's not going to go, oh, Monica, you're number 4, right?
Sometimes.
Because it seems like often what it is you have a number 1, right? And then you just have the rest of the alliance who you can probably just psych into believing they're the bottom.
Very often, the number 1 picks their 2 and 3.
It is used to convince people. Like, you can go up to somebody and be like, all right, come on. We both know, like, once it gets down to your group, you're going first. Right. So, like, it's more of that kind of thing.
You can see it coming.
You can pick a top and a bottom, but I don't think you can pick people out of the middle.
Probably not. But that's fine. That's fine. The middle people aren't ever the targets.
Well, it matters if you're trying to convince one of the middle people to go over to a different alliance with you.
I think most of the time people are successful in doing that. Because middle people feel uncomfortable all the time.
Right. I guess like the idea is if you're not the top of the alliance, you must always feel like you're on the bottom. That's the only safe way to play it.
Yes. It's amazing how many people feel truly safe in Survivor. I will the people who just are like, not me. I'm like, how? Like, even if you're someone's number 1, it's truly because they think, 1, they can win against you in every way. They think they can physically win against you. They think people will vote for them in the end. Like, there's just, you should never feel good ever in Survivor.
Right.
And I
that
go ahead.
In that case, then, if you're not the number one in an alliance, you always must feel like you're on the bottom. It seems like there's very little benefit in being an alliance unless you're the top. So you should never agree to an alliance with somebody else. You should always be proposing the alliance.
Actually, that's a very good point, Ian. Let's look at a case study of Mr. Russell Hands.
Oh my god.
Russell Hands has saved himself and his teammates 6 times with idols over the course of his 2 games that he played.
It's true.
He has made it into the final 3 both times. He has never won a game of Survivor.
Has he ever even gotten a vote in the final?
So Russell Hands is like the notorious villain of Survivor, because he, like, who cares if he wins or loses? He is just one of the biggest POSs in all of Survivor history because of the way he plays. I think the person worth talking about in Survivor is Parvati. Every time. One of the most confusing cases of a Survivor contestant 3 times in a row that I just am totally freaking baffled by.
Well, wait, Ricky, what was your point about Russell, though?
He's the number 1 in Alliance all the time.
Yes, right.
He is very openly, I'm the kingpin of this alliance. Here are my people who I am aligned with, and I am protecting them. And then very quickly, when it starts getting to whittle down his own alliance, he's like, you're the bottom. Sorry. And you know what he does? Not win. Because when you get to the end, the last 7 to 8 people who have been eliminated vote on who wins the $1 million.
Yeah. And no one likes Russell because he screwed them all over.
No one likes him. Yep.
Right. So the biggest thing about like the very end is after it gets to, I don't know, somewhere between like 7 and 10 people, everyone voted out from that point on builds the jury. And then the jury is who decides who wins Survivor with the last 3 people, 2 or 3 people there. And the jury gets to sit them down and just question the hell out of them, embarrass them, call them losers, ask why they have no morality, and then they ultimately vote for the winner. So there's a lot of strategy. It's by far one of the best elements of Survivor. So brilliant.
Getting a little ahead of ourselves, but let's get into phases of the game.
Okay.
Now that we've explained what Survivor is and what happens in a cycle and in a season, let's talk about the phases of the game. The first phase being the pre-merge.
Okay.
This is at the beginning of the game. Both teams are split into 2 or 3 tribes, and you are competing for immunity together. Only losing team loses a member, so you can often be safe as a team. So this involves first the Marooning, which is something newer. It doesn't always happen like this. Sometimes there's a more, in the older seasons of Survivor, the Marooning, quote unquote, is the like, we take you to someplace cool in this weird spot and then lead you to like your nowhere, like in China and a couple other ones do that. But in modern Survivor, everybody starts on a boat and there's tons of supplies on the boat, and you are given 5 minutes to get off of the boat with as much as you can carry.
Yeah, they did that once really early, too, and then kind of stopped for a while, and then I guess brought it back later on.
It's pretty much the standard of, like, post-season 22 Survivor. Especially because when they start eventually, some behind-the-scenes stuff, eventually, like, the Survivor Company and Jeff Probst buy a few islands.
Oh, wait, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know
like,
that.
Whenever they don't brag
sense.
about where they are, they're back on, like, the Survivor Islands.
That makes sense. Okay, because early seasons of Survivor, it was always fun to see where the new place was going to be. Because it's some place I'd never heard of, and they all have different things. Like, do they have, like, is this one going to have monsoons? And is this one going to be on the beach? And is this one going to be in the mud?
Yeah.
And is this, like, that was one thing that Survivor definitely lost, is that in the earlier seasons, a lot of the reward challenges had to do with the natives to the island. Like, you could get to go visit the natives,
like a lot
eat
more
food with
local
them,
influence.
like learn who they were, what they do, and get to like see cool gatherings and stuff that they have. In the newer seasons, they just don't do that anymore. You never get a reward out to like a beautiful waterfall anymore. It's always like a donut.
There is still some of that, actually. We'll get to those later. But
okay. It's me being angry.
The Marooning now is like tons of supplies on a boat, and that's what you're going to get to start with. Of course, the rice and the well are always guaranteed, but like now you can grab things like pots. You can start the game with chickens. Chickens is always an interesting thing to start with.
Yeah.
Because, people don't know how to deal with animals.
Right.
And I guarantee you, anybody who gets chickens in the beginning of the game, those chickens are escaping.
Always.
At some point, we will have back at the camp, oh no, the chickens got out. Everybody chase the chickens around.
Yep.
Hilarity. I think, honestly, they give them the chickens not for food, but just for good TV later when they escape.
There's a season where someone catches a wild boar native to the island.
Yes.
And
There's
like
also a
keeps it
season,
or like just hunts it.
I'm not going to say what happens, but that does happen.
There's also another season where they catch a baby and mama goat and then moralize forever about whether or not they can eat them, and then decide that they're not going to.
The sheer amount of effort that goes into killing and eating them is more work than I'd be willing to do.
Right. At least the chicken is sort of easy.
I hate chickens, so yeah.
But everybody has to get stuff as quickly as they can and get off the boat in their little raft. So in this, things you need, tools. There's never a tarp, because tarp is very important prize later. But any fishing gear you can grab, tools like those bananas and stuff like that. Those, you think those are going to be top tier, but those are going to go so fast.
Yeah.
You need, once again, don't buy a fish, learn to fish, right?
Right.
You need more reliable things. And the other thing you want to be looking for in every marooning, somewhere on the boat, is a game advantage.
See, here's what I think you should do with marooning. Every time anyone takes off, you wait. You stay behind, and then everyone else is going to go out and do things. You're going to take all their shit and you're going to dump it in the ocean somewhere else.
You would
Everything they left behind.
So hated.
So
no one would know it was me.
That does happen if you are a tribe. The other thing is, don't be afraid to throw things into the water near your raft. You can collect it once it's off the boat.
Oh yeah,
If you start neatly packaging all your stuff to start slowly moving it onto your raft, one, you're not going to have enough time. Two, the other tribe is going to come and take shit out of your pile.
I'm just saying, sometimes in Survivor, you're rewarded for not doing the thing everyone else is doing at the exact same time. There was one time where they marooned everybody, or they were on the ship basically, and they were like, we threw everything off the ship, go get it. And then one person was just kind of dilly-daddling around on the ship, and they lifted something up, and there was the immunity clue. Because they didn't just jump straight into the ocean. So sometimes there's benefit to taking your time and being a little bit smarter than everyone is strong. So.
Right. And another thing that I see all the time that nobody seems to do, and this seems like the most obvious thing in the world, if you're taking crab traps and nets and stuff like that, wrap stuff in the nets or put things in the crab trap.
Yeah.
Somebody's trying to carry a bunch of loose oranges and a crab trap. Just drop those in the crab trap.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things I know I would be absolutely awful at in Survivor. Anything physical would be extremely hard for me, and I'm a horrible swimmer. So I definitely have to figure out what I would do. And I think number one is don't be noticed, because then they would be like, oh, she sucks. But then also look like I'm doing something really important somewhere else.
Just all the time.
Right.
No one's going to, I can't dive head first off a boat. I will just sink. I won't know how to recover. It's not going to go well for me. So just look like I'm doing get one good thing maybe. We'll see. Maybe steal a shirt or something.
Next part of the pre-merge is team building and the importance of physical play. Because early, you need to win the team challenges. You need everybody to be somewhat capable. So this is unfortunately the part of the game where, the people who weigh 20 pounds wet and aren't great at puzzles, that's the killer combo to get eliminated early, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's. It seems like there's the other issue is that's only true if there aren't people who are more annoying than you around.
Yes.
True. But the big one here, and that'll go into morale. But the big thing is the first thing anybody does when they get back from a losing immunity challenge as a team is go, who lost us that challenge? And will they continue to lose us challenges? And that's the person who's normally the first out, almost always.
Well, the biggest thing is if you're just bad enough that you can scrape by as winners, It's not really a big thing. But if you actively kept people from winning, that's always the problem. Like, if you're a little slow and you're a little dumb and you're a little bad at puzzles or something, most of the time people aren't going to, like, full-on blame you. The blame usually comes, or if you're just incapable. Like, if there's just something you can't do, it's not usually going to be, like, a giant target on your back, necessarily. You have to have done something to stop your team from winning, like, directly. Like, gone, oh,
Right.
I'm perfect for this puzzle, and then ruined it. Don't volunteer for that.
In China, we just went through a physical challenge where there's a girl who is maybe 70 pounds.
Courtney.
Yep, Courtney.
Can't stand her.
And she cannot swing a machete.
Oh, God, that was the worst. Yeah.
But they don't blame her for it because, like, what do they want her to do?
Right.
Right.
Right,
And it is kind of like what you said, Ian. It's very much one of those like you don't have to outrun the danger, you just have to outrun the slowest person kind of scenarios. Like, as long as you're not last, you're pretty much okay.
There's a lot of strategy that can go into dealing with your weakest link, too. And a lot of teams don't do that. It's always some dumb, muscly dudes like, this is how it's going to go. And they never listen to the kind of smart medium person who's like, what if we took the weak person and put them here? They're like, oh, no, can't do that. And I'm like, you're a bunch of dummies because you're going to blame that person, but you didn't. So before every challenge, each team gets about an hour to decide how they're going to play the challenge.
The challenge, yes.
They have a huddle, then they have a whole amount of time. So they
just cut all that out.
Yeah, because that's not fun. And they all get to decide who's going to do what, who's going to sit out, how it's all going to go. They have plenty of time for it, and they still manage to ruin it. So usually you really have to do a lot. Like, just being weak and losing isn't really what's going to do it. You have to say you're going to perform and then screw it up. So I always want people to think that I just can't do anything. I will never volunteer for anything.
Yeah, for sure.
Speak up. Like, if you can't swim, and they're like, I think you should be part of the swimming part of the relay. You'd be like, actually, I'm really good at puzzles. Like go somewhere else. You cannot, like, if you are going to fail somewhere, like, there was a person that, like legit, like, basically couldn't swim past, like, survival swimming.
Yeah.
And, like, they put them, because they were a big, strong man, they put them on, like, the swimming portion of the thing.
Right.
And, like, they just floundered and, like, treaded water until the tide took them in almost. Like, it was so bad.
The most baffling version of that exact kind of thing that I've seen is on one of the seasons we watched, there was a woman who was literally an Olympic athlete.
Oh,
she
my
was like
God!
She was like a runner or something. And she sucked at everything. Every single challenge. She was one of the worst people on the entire
That makes sense to me.
team.
Because, like, as an Olympic athlete, you're used to performing under peak conditions always.
That makes sense, but she labeled herself and told everyone she was an Olympic athlete.
That's 100% what you do. You notice
go ahead.
she got to suck multiple times?
That's true.
Because they still trusted her.
No, yeah, I guess people kept going, well, that must have been a fluke, I guess.
My least favorite person in all of Survivor seasons I've ever watched, and she is not only one of the weakest players I've ever seen, she's also one of the dumbest players I've ever seen. And just to top it off, she is the meanest player I've ever seen. Like, not mean like strategy, just a bitch for no reason to everyone all the time.
But is she sexual assault Baloo? Because that's the...
So another thing that's important here,
sexual assault Baloo.
This is a numbers game.
Yeah,
and you don't want to be the number one physical player. You want to be the number two physical player all the time. You don't want to be...
Let me just do that then.
No, I mean,
so
there are people that, like,
determine...
sandbag a little bit. You know,
sandbag.
Like, the big thing is, like, you just want to be, like, you want to be good at physical challenges, but you don't want to be, like, the hero guy that comes in when you're super behind for, like, the ring toss and, like, goes, like, ring, ring, ring. You don't want to be Ozzy.
No.
Why?
Well, because Ozzy's history, because I guess you haven't seen his seasons, but Ozzy, well, I really feel guilty talking about Ozzy without Kyle.
We don't have to say it's Ozzy. Any challenge beast, anybody who's very good at the physical aspects of challenge,
well, but
you are the biggest target come the merge.
Ozzy is a notorious player because he comes back for like 7 seasons because he's so beloved. But his first season, he is...
he shows up in the one where they're divided by races, actually.
Yes.
That's his first time.
Yeah. He is equivalent. He can swim like a mermaid. He can climb like a monkey. He can run like a cheetah. Like, this dude is insane, and he does not waver once.
I've been making this joke forever, but when he's introduced, he's Ozzy, the waiter. And I am 100% convinced to this day that Ozzy was on the island when they showed up and just walked into the group and no one noticed.
He was literally, he was waiting.
yes, exactly.
I don't want to give too many spoilers, but when you've been on the show 7 times, you probably haven't won all of them because they keep allowing you to come back. So Ozzy's got some big flaws and he's just easy to go like, oh, don't want to go against him in the merge. So there's,
as soon as the game changes from a team game to an individual game, which you can argue it's always an individual game, but when I no longer need you to carry my big boat for the relay race, right? Mm-hmm. Now you're scary.
Right.
Because you might win the endurance challenges, and as soon as you mess up once, or the infamous killer of all challenge beasts, the memory game.
I'd be so good at that. That's what I got.
What?
Memory. So I have 2 things to offer in challenges, and they're both so rare that it doesn't matter.
Did you just remember that you're really good at memory?
I'm extremely good at memory. And then 2, I can deal with pain. I think is the only thing I have to offer. So if you have to just like run through mud and barbed wire, I will do that. If you have to do anything that involves like hurt for just like a small period of time, that's the only thing I have to offer. Is like, yes, I can do the pain very quickly and then it's over. That's all I got. Is like, I will scrape my body on the way through the mud, or like there's sometimes they have to do the one where they dig a giant hole under a bar and then they have to squeeze their body.
Oh, God.
I know how to... They always make men do that. I will never understand... Men do not know how to contort their body in disgusting ways to fit into things that are too small for them. Always send women. They know exactly how to twist and turn and get under that thing, but they just don't bigot.
Because men have too many bones.
Yeah. That's true. It's true.
The only thing I think I have left to cover on early alliances and tribals, because we pretty covered that already, is that on the first day, don't poop first.
What?
Do not leave the group camp first for any reason. Don't be the first person to go swimming. Don't be the first person who needs more water, and don't be the first person to go to the poop rocks or wherever the bathroom is.
Pooping on rocks?
So it's interesting that Ricky's bringing this up because this is never once mentioned in the show about bathroom stuff. I've read about it behind the scenes, but like there is. Poop rocks? Where did you get that term?
It gets said a couple of times. It's like you head into the poop rocks. The players say it.
Interesting.
What's the DL on how they doing the pooping?
I actually don't know. I think there's a bathroom facility somewhere, like an outhouse.
No.
But I have also seen players just go out in the ocean and I mean, you don't see them poop.
There was a very small issue that happened in one season where someone did something too close to camp. But for the most part, it's just like camping normal. I think they have like a very, very small amount of toilet paper maybe that they're allowed. But it's literally like dig a hole, go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Okay.
There is designated spots like away from camp basically. And then some islands, they don't have that because of the sanctity of the island. Like because of where they are and like who the natives are that they're not allowed to do that. So I don't know what they do there, but for the most part, it's not a big deal.
But what island has it? Like, sure, you're allowed to come watch, run your capitalist game show with you're allowed to commodify our culture. But how dare you leave human waste on the island?
Yeah, no, it's weird.
It's funny to joke about it, but really don't. You don't want to be the
Ricky's
first
really
person.
dead set on this.
Well, it sounds like this is like
person to leave.
Me with
Allison's
IBS,
brother
just
Thomas
like,
has this fear of like leaving the room because he thinks when he leaves the room, everybody will clear out.
No, that's my fear.
Well, Thomas has said the same thing, I guess.
Oh no! Why are we like this?
Who hurt y'all? Did y'all just like leave?
We're worried that when we leave rooms, we come back and everyone's gone.
But it feels like the same thing. It's like if you're the first one to leave, you get left out of all the alliance making because you're the one not there. So you become the target.
I do have this fear. It's so awful. But I mean, I agree with you, Ricky. It's just such a weird thing to have thought of. Like, don't poop.
Survivor does take that fear everyone has of like people talking about you behind your back though and make it explicit. Like if you were not there, people are talking about
Just to clarify, I'm not worried about people talking about me behind my back. I'm worried about them leaving. I would rather them talk about me and then I get there and then I shut up. I'm most worried when I'm like expecting to hang out with people and they're like, oh, we all decided to go to bed. And I'm like, fuck. Ruined
The
it.
other thing, don't be the first person to bring up alliance strategy.
Yeah, no.
Whoever the first person who talks about it, like, hey, do you want to get an alliance going?
Especially if it's
that
like the
person
first
is
day.
now labeled as overthinking and overly strategic, and we should knock them out.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a woman. There is a lot of sexism on Survivor, but a lot of it comes... I mean, it just kind of is inherent to the players, but a lot of it comes around with, like, women are described as, like, seductresses and like snakes and like all of these weird like slimy like what am I thinking of? They're just like I don't know. They're spooky weird mystery creatures, and then men every time they do anything they're like, that's a strong player over there is talking alliances on day one.
It seems like so it's got to be partially because I mean, so some of the most famous Survivor players just were seductresses, right?
Yes,
a couple of them.
Like, this is
yes.
This it's not. It is unfortunately not without warrant, I think. But
Parvati
also,
go ahead.
Like, I mean, I definitely see like the sexism is really evident earlier on. It's like, so you have like three men who are just like trying to outman each other carrying rocks, and then one woman who's like, yeah. So I did that for about 3 hours, and then I threw up, and they're like, well, she's weak.
Right.
So, I know this.
Vote her out.
I know this isn't my time, but I really just have to talk about Parvati for like 1 second. Ricky, is there going to be a time I can do this, or is it now?
Yes, there will be favorite players we'll talk about.
Okay. Don't.
All right.
I got to talk about it.
We gotta make moves here. We gotta make moves.
I thought you said poverty, but
yeah,
it kind of depends.
It's always confusing.
We're gonna talk about the merge.
Okay.
The merge happens about 12 to 10 players. When we have that many left from our 14 to 20, we are going to get rid of tribal bounds, and we are going to come together as a new tribe, all get together and finger paint a new flag. It's going to be lots of fun. And we have the traditional merge feast. This is huge. One, because everybody is starving.
Oh, the merge feast, yeah.
There's this is your time to get in socially.
Yeah. Like,
everyone lets their guard down because everyone is too busy stuffing their face with all of the best looking food you've ever seen in your life because you've been eating nothing but rice and sucking on clams because somebody told you it was protein.
Those meals look like the way Redwall describes food.
Redwall?
Redwall. What's the book about mice who eat cheese?
What?
So,
I think other things happen too.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's right.
If you merge and your tribe before the merge was less than the number of people in the other tribe, you need to start scrambling because of this thing that is known as the Pagong.
Pagong?
The Pagong. In the first season of Survivor, we have a tribe named Pagong. They go into the merge with less people than the other tribe. They are then systematically, even though we're all playing individual games, we're not playing tribe games anymore, they are all systematically picked off one by one till only the other tribe remains. This is known as a pagonging.
Oh, okay. We just saw the same thing happen in a very recent season, and it was uninteresting.
It wasn't recent. It was season 23.
It makes sense,
though,
because at this point, you know your own tribe, right?
Right.
And you don't know the other tribe, so why bother?
Right. No, that really does happen.
Your tribe morale is going to be higher because if you have more players, you've won more.
People with bad strategy will do this. Games with bad strategy, with most people who have no idea what strategy is, they will just knock people out one by one because they have no sense of self-preservation, I think is really it. And on the season we watched, the reason that this happened, that they just knocked everyone out one by one, is because people were truly content with like, oh, I'm 5 at least, so at least I'll get to make it to 5th, which is like, I get that if you feel like you can scramble in the last 5 to get yourself up to place 2, but that never happens. If you're not thinking about that early, then you have to understand that when everyone's just picked one by one off, you will also be picked off in that order.
It's literally that metaphor of like, oh, this isn't happening to me, and then by the time it is happening to you, all the people who would have helped you are gone.
Leopards ate my face.
Yeah.
So the idea is that you want to, if you're high and you're in the majority half, you want to pick off the new players because you already know you can beat your own guys. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
So
Definitely.
if you're low, if you're low, you want to pick off your own guys because anybody's better than who you've got.
Yes, exactly.
There was a great season where there was a good season where right before the merge, one guy who was uncomfortable in his own group decided to trust the other team that they were going to join them. They thought that person was on the outs of their team, and they were like, okay, since that guy's definitely on the outs, I think it was like he was the only guy in an all-girl team, and he's like, that guy is obviously on the outs. We will do whatever we take. So I think they give him the idol or something.
This is
they
Russell
do something.
Hands.
And
JT gives the idol to
no names. It's not important. And so they do that to win the favor over. And, shenanigans ensue. It's does it work, does it not work? And it's one of the most notorious moves in Survivor. But it's always things like that where, like, do you risk understanding what's happening at the other team? Because you do know what's going on with yours. So it's all really interesting strategy. There isn't even, like, right or wrong, but it's safe to say, I think intuition is really important. How are people talking to each other? How are they standing? Where are they going? What's going on when they interact? Because
that's the whole moment that Ricky's talking about too at the whole dinner. Like that's really what you should be paying attention to when you're like first getting together.
Who
is like,
is
what is the
sleeping
dynamic
next to each other? Always pay attention to who's sleeping next to who. It's very important.
Yep. Mm. So the Pagong, when I think when the Pagong happens, it is not a necessary like show of lack of skill. I think what a Pagong means is that there are 2 to 3 players or one player who have considerably more skill at this game than the rest. Because yes, if you are on the 6th group at the 11-person merge and you're on the 6th group and you guys are like, we're gonna stay Bruja Strong or whatever your tribe name is, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's very obvious who's leading, right?
Yes.
And it's very obvious who that person is hanging out with, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're sitting there going, yeah, Bruja Strong. But, like, what happens when the other team is Pagonged? It's you. And if you can't realize that quick enough, it's going to be bad. But if Pagonging is happening, that means that somebody on the winning tribe is skilled enough to have convinced you and the rest of the people that this is what we need to do.
See, I think the best strategy here for the merge, is to be the one everyone's questioning. And I know that sounds crazy, but the swing vote is always, I think, the best opportunity in the game, but it does come with a high risk. But I think it's the best place to be, which is your team is like, oh, we kind of treated them like shit for the first, 7 tribals we went to, so I don't know if they're going to want to stick around. And then the other team desperately needs that person. So that person has some really... I've seen people ruin this, and I've seen people absolutely nail it. But I think this person, I'd say maybe half the time, goes to the end.
If you swing, you need to take control of the alliance. Because if you are on the 4, or if you are on the 5 end of the 5-6, right? And you swing to make it a 6-5 in the other favor, as soon as it becomes 6-4, they can afford to get you out now. Your own team can now kick you out and make it a 5-4.
Right, yeah, you have to position yourself.
You have to take someone with you. The swing player always has one person that they take with them, and when they successfully pull this off, either the swing player or the person who went with the swing player make it to the end. Guaranteed. It almost always happens.
I agree with that. If you swing with somebody... Yes.
How do you take control of an alliance?
And
why would anybody let you?
You begin calling the shots.
What's that?
You begin calling the shots.
So I will say...
But since you were not previously calling the shots, Ian, why would anybody listen to you?
My answer to your question, Ian, is that the reason that the swing player can often take control is because they have both knowledge of their team and now the current team. So the 3 people who were going to get knocked out one by one are looking to this person just kind of inherently to tell them all the ins and outs of the team they just left. So often that gives you just a tiny step up. And because and also the psychological element of those 3 people were just they were just sitting there dead. And so now they're clinging to kind of anyone to tell them what to do because they probably weren't, whispering and trying to get something done, which is always a mistake. But that's usually why that can happen.
It's really hard to say that anything definitively works because, maybe it just won't. I mean, maybe you'll try it and you'll fail.
I've seen this go so wrong. I have seen this go awful.
But do you know when the best time to make big plays is in the post-merge?
Okay.
It's when you have the individual immunity necklace.
Yeah, if you can get it.
We stop playing team games and we start playing single-player games, very puzzles or feats of strength, and very often endurance tests at this point, and a few memory games. And now only one person wins the immunity challenge. They get this really ballin' necklace, and they cannot be kicked out that tribal. They can't even be voted for. You can technically give this to another player if you win it. Don't. Ever. One person in the history of Survivor has done it. In the tribal where they gave it publicly, because you have to, Jeff will always ask, you've got the immunity necklace, are you keeping it? He stopped asking that because it's so stupid. But one person goes, yeah, I'm not. I'm going to give it to this person. And then everybody just looked at him and was like, well, we vote him off now.
Yeah. That did happen, yeah.
So anyways, if you win it and you can chain winning it, this is the only hope for the challenge beast because everybody wants you gone because you're going to keep winning these.
Right.
If you win 3 in a row and then lose the 4th one, I'm very sorry, but it doesn't matter what alliance you are on. You're gone.
I've seen people do this. I've seen people just beast mode it all the way through these and somehow just win them over and over again.
My strategy for this, if I ever get that far, win only 1 or 2 if you can. You don't want to win all of them. You don't even want to try to win all of them. And the only reason is if you lose all of them, at the very end, if you make it, people are going to be like, you just don't deserve to win Survivor. You're missing an entire element of the game, and I don't want to vote for you. You literally could not hold your own for a second. But if you win every single one, you have such a big target on your back that you just won't make it to the final 3. And if you by chance do, you're probably going to win.
You just got to be in the middle on everything on this game. You just can't be an outstanding person.
Speaking of which, do you know what a goat is?
Okay,
greatest of all time.
I have questions about this. You capitalized it on the outline, which means you're talking not about goats, but about goats, which are
not greatest of all time. Not greatest of all time.
When it's lowercase,
sorry.
Ricky.
Goats are players.
It's a sacrificial goat.
Goats are players who are not good at Survivor. If you make it to the merge and you're not very strong, strategy, socially, literally even. In one season, the most socially awkward, most off-putting person in the entire tribe, they got to go to the end because they are a goat. The player who is running things in the alliance will keep 2 goats close to them.
Oh, yeah.
Players that they believe have no chance of winning because they've done nothing.
Be a goat.
You know what a goat
Be a goat.
is?
Be a goat.
A goat is a vote.
In RuPaul, we call this getting Roxy.
Oh, no. Poor Roxy.
But goats, if you are a bad player, you can lean into being a goat if you find the person who is... And it sounds really dumb because when you're a goat, you often can't win. Because at the end, the jury is going to go what did you do that made you deserving to win? But sometimes you could be the goat and not even know it.
There is a truly so I've seen this happen a lot, which is you go to the end going, no one would vote for me. That's a great place to be. Be in that place because you are going up against someone who people probably hate for a lot of reasons. You're basically balancing do people hate me or do they feel like I played Survivor well? Because there's a lot of people who are like, you did backstab literally every single person and I'm very angry at you, but you played such a good game. And then there's other people who are like, you were such a horrible person. You will never have my vote. And I hope you die in a car accident. So you're kind of weighing that out. But the best place to be because I've seen this happen a lot, and it's one of my least favorite players is when somebody tells you how absolutely trash and useless you are, and that you're not going to get any votes, and then they take you to the end. I've seen people win this way of someone who's like, this person,
one of my top players.
Your top player is my least favorite. It's Sandra.
My actual top player is Boston Rob.
Really?
Boston Rob is trash.
What?
Boston Rob in the game, and because it's a bad season in all aspects, unless you are a fan of Boston Rob.
What season?
In a season, he does a Pagong.
Which season?
It's I can't remember the. I think it's 22.
Interesting.
But in this season, he runs a cult. He doesn't run a tribe. He runs a cult. He tells everybody at the merge, right before the merge, he says, look, we hate the other tribe. You don't like the other tribe. You are not allowed to talk to the other tribe, and you have to always stay with another person of our tribe.
What a creepy POS.
And this created a complete cult of Boston Rob. He was so unbeatable, and he took literally a person who was communing with eagles. Like, he literally like stripped down, climbed a mountain, and like just communed, quote unquote, and then like wore an eagle feather on his head for like the next 3 episodes because it was a gift from his great grandfather.
Was this Coach?
I think it was the guy John was talking about.
No, this is not Coach.
Oh.
This man went all the way to the end, and then even in the little like ending speech, he's like, oh, we're so cool. We have the great thing going. You see, I'm the stealth technician, and he's the mastermind.
This is the black guy, right?
Yeah, Philip. The FBI agent.
So the real question here is like, does this reflect well on Boston Rob, or just does it show that everybody else in his season was dumb as shit?
That one.
It's hard to say sometimes.
Because like, at no point does it seem like there's ever any reason to agree with Boston Rob.
The other tribe fought tooth and nail against him. They tried to convince the entire, but like he just like, because anybody like Boston Rob, anybody who went and talked to the other team and like their buddy reported them, Boston Rob would be like, okay, we don't have to get rid of somebody from the other tribe today. We're getting rid of this person from our tribe because they're untrustworthy.
The audacity of this man.
Merge. You should have just got rid of Boston Rob.
Yes.
He ran a mob family.
The audacity of this man, because he comes back later in one of the seasons of Heroes versus Villains. He's on the villain side, and he straight up has the audacity to be like, I don't really understand why I'm on the villain side. Excuse you.
To be fair, in that season of the villains, he is the hero.
Yeah, that's what I remember.
Yeah, he was actually good.
He organizes all these like unagreeable people to like be the best machine, winning through all the challenges, all the teamwork challenges and stuff. And then as soon as they get him out, they can't win another challenge.
Right. So like, it's Boston Rob. This is one of the seasons I watched way back when, and I don't remember anything about this. I remember very select few things about the season, but mostly I remember Boston Rob is trash. Yeah. So this, in terms of making a big move, being remembered, et cetera, he's failed miserably.
Is that the season with Amber?
It is.
That's his first season.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was so late. I remember watching that as a child.
Me too. I was an absolute literal child.
Okay.
I think part of it is they do not, like, these aren't a season a year, right? They're like 3 seasons.
It's 2 seasons a year.
It's a lot. It's like at least 2. Yeah.
It's 2 seasons a year.
It's got to be more than that. I mean, it's like, it's so easy.
Is this where I get to talk about Parvati? Right?
We're almost there. We're gonna talk about the final 4 play.
Oh my gosh! This list is okay.
When we get down to the final 4,
okay,
what's going to happen in modern Survivor? So in old Survivor, we played another challenge and then we voted one more time to get rid of the 4th person. That gameplay was really, really stale. It essentially like became just like whoever wins the challenge just gets to pick somebody to go.
Yeah. You skipped over the jury stuff.
We sort of talked about the jury every now and then. We'll get back to it.
Okay.
Now what happens, and it's so much smoother, when we get down to 4 players, we play a challenge. The winner of that challenge picks somebody to go to the final 3. So it's like a double immunity.
Right.
The remaining 2 players play the fire-making game.
Okay.
Is this the same old fire
It's
making
the
game that used to be
same
for tie
old
breaks?
fire making game.
But it's
that
two
they use for
people who
tie
have made
breaks.
it to the final four. They know how to
But
make
these-
fire. It's not going to take 4 hours.
They know how to make fire. And they do final 4 fire making. The winner of the fire making game makes the top 3. The top 3 have a top 3 feast, and then they go and face the jury, which are the last 7 to 8 people that have been voted out.
Is this including the 4th person?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now we have the jury interview and final tribal.
Best part of Survivor.
It is a roast.
This really makes the game feel fair, I think, a little bit. I think this is what rounds out the game more than anything else, is that they bring back the consequences of people's actions later.
Well, if it isn't the consequences of my own actions.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
The last 7 to 8 players not only get to come back here, but they've been coming back to every tribal since they've been eliminated.
Right, they've gotten to watch.
Right.
And I love to see them cleaned up for jury duty.
Yeah.
I do too, yeah.
It's so like, wow, that person, that's what they look like when they're not like dying on an island for 29 days.
I think it's also really satisfying for the viewers because likely one of those people was your favorite player. And so you
True.
kind of get to see like a little bit of a redemption. One, you get to see him look all pretty and stuff, which is enjoyable. But 2, they get to just lay into they don't even have,
Right.
they get to ask questions to anyone there. But alternatively, they can just shit all over them for however long they want. And I'm all for it.
Or
I'm all for it, honestly.
Sometimes they're so brainwashed by Boston Rob, they use
my
their time
God.
on the jury to campaign to the rest of the jury. For
No. Oh
What
my
happens?
God.
That happened. One guy was just like, he was on the other tribe of Boston Rob, and he just like stands up and just turns at the jury, and he's like, how can you vote against this man? He played the best game of Survivor we've ever seen.
Oh
He
my
was in control from the beginning.
Boston
Like,
Rob
he
is the
never stood a
OG Trump.
chance. Yeah.
Well, so this makes sense though if you're on the other team because Boston Rob did nothing but cannibalize his own tribe.
Right.
So
Yeah.
of course you like him if you're on the other side.
So
And also, I mean, I would almost agree on this season because everyone else was so stupid. How could you let them win?
Right.
Yep.
the roasts here get real personal,
Yep.
real deep. A lot of times, really often, reoccurring thing that gets brought up here is you swore on your children.
Yeah.
That's a very common thing. Is people make promises and they go, I swear on my kid's life, right? And then break the challenge or break the promise, and then like later it's just like, your children mean nothing to you. You swore on their life.
I always like
Always comes
when one of the like snakiest, seediest players gets voted out, and then they go up there and they're looking at the 3 final people and they're like, where was your honor? Your dignity
Yeah.
to vote me out of the game. That's always fun. Or alternatively, when they ask one of the 2 or 3 people left and they go, why shouldn't that person next to you win? And that person's like, oh, this bitch that I took to the end? Oh, she sucks. Did not do it. They
Those
turn
are-
on each other, just eat each other.
Yeah.
Love it. It's
Those are great.
beautiful.
The why don't you, like, why do the other people deserve to win question is the biggest trap question that always gets asked.
Yep.
Somebody is always going to come up and say it. I honestly think at this point, Jeff pays one person to ask this question because it's a very Jeff question.
It is.
But somebody will always go up there and go, like, the 2 people sitting next to you, why do they deserve to win?
Right.
Surely the correct answer is they don't.
Right.
That is a pretty correct answer, but also, if you're too mean, that might turn people off from you also. Another popular question is, what was the big strategic play you made this game? This is a question you ask goats. Goats get asked this question. They ask you, what did you do strategically to get where you are?
Right.
AKA, did you just ride somebody all the way through?
And they did.
But that's a strategy.
And they did. And it always pisses me off because this person always has the audacity to be like, I made big plays. I was great. Riding the coattails of someone, super hard. And I'm like, boo, I don't like you. I
feel like it's like...
Isn't that a
like,
poverty
it's gotta be
answer at some
legitimate-
point?
huh?
What's
Doesn't
that?
poverty give that answer at some point?
Yes, but unfairly. I will defend Parvati, my least favorite player of my second least favorite of Survivor, to my death. I don't know if she's my favorite or my least favorite. I'll never know, but I will defend her to the end. Sandra, on the other hand, screw Sandra. Hate Sandra.
I love Sandra. Do you know
She's
how
a
many times
wormy
she has
little
won
loser.
individual challenges?
Huh?
Do you know how many times she has won individual challenges?
Against who though?
Any? Yeah.
0.
Yeah.
She has not won a single individual challenge. There's a point where she's the sit-out on her tribe so often, they call it the Sandra bench.
Right. Here's the fun thing about Sandra. She loses every challenge. She seems like a nightmare to have around. Her strategy for winning Survivor is waiting and just riding the coattails of someone else till she gets to the very end. Everything about Sandra is completely unadmirable as a person, and she wins Survivor.
She makes her social game is so crazy. Like in one season with Sandra, she decides that she notices two people arguing about how much sugar they're using for their coffee. And they both get into a tough about it, and they both walk off. And so Sandra just goes over and eats all the rest of the sugar in the jar.
Oh my god.
What a
and
miserable
then those
person. This is why Sandra's like, Sandra's strategy is Facebook mom, and I hate it. Everything about her personality is like, she does all that, she does exactly what you said, like on camp, and then she does like her little cutaway where they interview her, and she's crying now because her husband has been a Marine for 20 years and she never sees her husband, and everything is super hard, and her kids are 40 years old, and none of them talk to her, whatever. And then she goes back on camp, she's like, I'm gonna eat all this sugar, I don't know why people don't like me, I'll never understand.
No, she knows why people wouldn't like her, but they don't get to see that part. Also, she gets a lot of credit in Heroes vs. Villains for literally yelling at Russell multiple times.
That was
the only good thing about her.
All right. Anyway,
openly, are you against me or with me, Sandra? And it just goes, Russell, I'm against you. I want you to lose this game. And just like, Russell's like, she's probably fine. We can take her to the end.
And then Russell, who is literally a fedora-wearing loser, she takes his prized fedora and throws it in the fire. Greatest thing anyone's ever done. But again, Facebook mom strategy. Everything she does... what?
Real quick, just a note. We did just pass 2 hours.
Yeah. That's what I was trying to...
Tidy up.
We're getting to the end here. So, overall strategy and gimmicks.
Is this where I talk about poverty?
Allison,
favorite players section.
Allison, the floor is yours for poverty. We'll do favorite players.
Are we there yet? I can wait.
We're gonna okay. Cover gimmicks. We'll each do a favorite gimmick. A gimmick is something that changes the game sort of fundamentally, or a theme to the game.
Okay.
Each season has one for the most part, except for the beginning, because in the beginning it's just survive. This is cool.
I think
so. My favorite gimmick is there's two of them called Blood versus Water. In which the teams are brought in pairs. They're like loved ones pairs. So it's like mom and daughter, husband and wife, two brothers, and then they think they're playing together, and when they get there, they are split into separate tribes. So you are now playing against your loved ones.
Right.
And if you get voted off, you go to Redemption Island, and you can take the place of your loved one in Redemption Island. You can switch with them at any point in time. So you will not be voted out, but you will be on the edge of playing, and they get to join on your tribe.
I think
very fun, especially come the merge, because there becomes the pairs group versus the non-pairs.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I want to watch one of those.
People begin to dislike people on the other tribe, and then vote out their loved one off their own tribe to get back at them. Somebody is being really mean at the challenges, just being suck it, in your face. Y'all can't beat us. And they're just oh, well, his cousin is here. Let's just vote her out, and that'll shut him up, right?
I think my favorite gimmick is actually the race divided one. I think for a few different reasons. One, it's really interesting to see on a very personal kind of level how people do and don't click in situations where they're forced to be I guess there are some things that are really expected and some things that are really unexpected about it. And something that is expected. The white group never once talk about how they're aligned by their race. Never once is the group that's split up into only white people yeah, we're the white team. Never once happens. Not ever.
Good on them.
Agreed. They never, I don't even think one guy even tries. It's just not a part of their strategy whatsoever. It's just kind of a normal game of Survivor, which is interesting because the other teams obviously feel much more assigned to it? Like, which races feel really strongly about it, and does that have any decision in their, like, alliances? Which, fascinatingly, in my opinion, had almost none. But then it's just interesting because it feels like a really bad idea, but the people themselves in the game did not make it a bad idea, which I thought was really kind of interesting.
It's got to be unequal though, right? So you have like all the white people together, sure. All the black people together, sure. But then like all the Asian people, there's more than one kind of Asian.
Yeah, they mentioned
like,
this.
That just seems insulting.
Yeah.
Like,
no, what's your favorite?
They talk about that. They do talk about that in the show. It doesn't play an obvious factor, but it plays an underlying factor, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah.
Like, it's the back of the mind's like ongoing kind of like processing when they do make decisions, but it's not like the forefront. It's just really interesting to see, and it's not like
right.
fascinating like a poke science experiment kind of thing. It's just interesting to see how it plays into the game of Survivor, which I would argue doesn't really, which I liked about it. Like, my takeaway was
it seems like it's a bad idea, and the best outcome is that it wasn't a thing.
Also, just the 4 tribes make the tribals super tense.
Yeah.
4 tribes sound
It is really interesting, and it's kind of interesting to see the acknowledgement of stereotypes, but I would argue that they really don't super come into play very often. It's like, what happens when you just like assign people to groups based exclusively on their race and then give them nothing? Well, turns out the race doesn't actually seem to matter that much. It was really interesting. It was a really good season for a lot of reasons.
I really liked, actually, on that note, just to sort of like springboard off of yours, there was one season where they separated everybody by, they didn't say it this way, but they separated them by D&D traits.
Oh.
They had the strong team, the fast team, the smart team, and the pretty team, or like the charisma team. And that was
there's a couple
interesting.
Of these.
That was a good season.
What are you saying, Ricky?
There's a couple of these. There's the beauty, brawn, brain seasons.
That's the one I was talking about. Yeah.
There's also the healers, hustlers. I forget the third H. It's triple H. It's like It's a weird one. It's like healers, hustlers, something. I don't know. But that one's like by your career. It's like, are you in the medical field? Are you in like a side biz like field? And like the last one was like a bunch of like Instagram celebs and YouTubers.
Oh, this reminds me. Other pro strat for winning Survivor. Don't be a cop.
Don't be a cop. Don't be a cop.
Don't try to hide that you're a cop. Someone will sniff you out as a cop. You will be voted off because people don't like cops. Also, don't be a cop.
But no, wait. What I meant to say was there's a season Gen Z versus
Gen X versus Millennials.
Millennials versus Gen X. The premise is so fucking annoying. And I thought I was really going to hate that season based exclusively on the forced gimmicks that they kept including in the show, but was one of my favorite seasons ultimately. And one reason why it was so annoying is people who like dive into the gimmick. I swear they paid these people to do it because they would do like an interview and they're like, well, as a millennial, these core values of millennialism are very important to me and everything I do in my life. And I'm like, no one has ever talked like that. No one. And then it's like, as Gen Z, we didn't grow up with 4 screens in our face. Oh yeah, sorry, Gen X. We didn't grow up with 4 screens in our face, and therefore we're gonna win Survivor because we know how to work for what we want. And I'm like, how dare they?
I'm vicariously hating these.
It ended up being a fantastic season, though, but it's such an awful gimmick.
So speaking of gimmicks, I haven't seen. Does China have one?
No.
Yes, it's the kidnapping.
The kidnapping?
What?
That's the
kidnapping.
It seems like a very weak.
They're able to like kidnap each other from
gimmick.
each other's.
Oh.
I think the gimmick in China is you're always wet and miserable.
Yeah.
Right.
I think
everybody is.
The gimmick in China is dealing with Courtney.
Is any gimmick that is so one-sided, it's like, why? And those are there's one season where the gimmick is one tribe lives in a house with all the food they can eat, and the other tribe is playing Survivor.
What?
One of them is One of them is we played. It's actually called David Goliath, and they once again give one tribe everything and the other tribe like
I
nothing.
haven't even seen that one.
Is the idea just like I suppose like the premise is one side gets to grow lean and scrappy, and the other side gets to grow fat and spoiled.
Yes.
But probably the people with calories. Win,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Yep. And then the worst ups like fans versus favorites is the dumbest thing. It's like a whole team of people who have played Survivor multiple times,
Right.
and a bunch of people who like Survivor.
If you
That
ask,
was
That's us,
pretty
right?
unfair too. Like,
This is the how would we fare on Survivor portion right
Yeah.
there. Right?
all right, well, let's get to first. What is your top strategy tip for optimal play on Survivor? For me, I would have to say be second in everything.
Second place champ. Yeah, it's our video. This is literally
Second in everything.
Right. So it doesn't. Just learning through this podcast so far, it seems like there's no discernible strategy that works.
That's accurate.
Like be on top of the alliance, no. Be on bottom of the alliance, no. Be in the middle of the alliance, no. Win challenges, no. Don't win challenges, no.
You know what I'm hearing actually is that I might actually be okay at this because if I just do what I do in real life, which is do everything I'm supposed to and not be noticed by anyone around me, I probably would do fine.
what was the
I'm
prompt
definitely
again?
like on board of.
What was
what's
the
that?
prompt?
What are your strategies? What
Ah,
What
okay.
is your top strategy tip for optimal play
Gotcha.
on Survivor? Mine is be second
board
in
with-
everything.
Yeah, be in the middle of the pack to second and everything is definitely the best I can figure as a strategy.
Kyle, you got one?
I said mine. Just the way I live actual life. Just don't be noticed. Just
Don't be noticed.
do the things that you're supposed to do so that people don't notice you're not doing them, but also don't point out that you're doing them, and then people will just not notice that you're there.
My strategy is also the same as Ricky's, but the opposite. Be second to last the entire time. Never be the one voted
Second
out.
to
Always
last.
be the one second to being voted out. Then at the merge, be the one who flips or join with the one who flips. Every time.
That's
You
a
will
good
make it to
strategy,
the
too.
end.
I like the either sitting in second place and you have to play the control game, or sitting in the bottom and you have to play the scramble game. I think they're both.
Who's the beach?
I will
man?
say-
It really is. It really does become when you get to merge. It really does become a game of people in control versus people trying to knock that over.
Ian, in your season, Amanda is one of my favorite players. And I think
Right.
James is obviously
Amanda-
Kyle's. But so one thing about your season that's interesting is I kind of hate how every single person played the game in your season. And it's one of my favorite seasons because I think that it's still really rewarding watching it all happen. But I'm really curious to see what you think because everything that everyone does in that season, I would not do a single thing that they did.
Right. It's definitely been like a because I've been watching it for research, and Ricky's been like, they shouldn't have done that. That's not how the game is played. It's like, well, obviously it
Very
is,
subjective,
but,
yeah.
no, like,
Well, like they're not playing
obviously
optimally. They're not like nobody is making like
well,
the.
but if nobody is playing optimally, then the optimal choice is wrong because it all depends on social interactions and expected reactions. But like, so no spoilers. Obviously, Amanda's my early pick to win.
Yeah, I won't give any spoilers, but I always really liked Amanda. Kyle always really liked James.
Also, it's funny because apparently Ricky and John hate James because he keeps showing up and he keeps getting injured or something. So they're just like, I'm just waiting for James to fall apart. I'm like, okay, I guess
I like James until he spoke.
No spoilers. Oh
no! Also, he's on Team Sexual Harassment with
when
I don't know how far you
when he
are.
was just this silent, muscly man, he was my favorite. But right when he started sharing his opinions on things, I was like,
I haven't made it clear, but I hate Courtney.
Right. Well, see, right now I don't hate Courtney.
That's okay. You don't have to. A lot of people don't.
Like,
it's okay.
Where I am, Courtney has just been the victim of sexual harassment, if not assault.
Yes. No, that's absolutely fair.
But I'm sure I can see how she would get annoying fast.
Right. No,
favorite players time.
Favorite players.
Go on.
Tell me about Parvati.
Go, Allison.
Okay. So Parvati's thing is the very first season she's on, she wins. And everyone's baffled because Parvati is a stunningly gorgeous swimsuit model-esque type person who's like every man's favorite thing to look at because she's like mildly ethnic, so they all think they're doing something special by being into Parvati or whatever because her name's Parvati.
Okay.
And so like her tactic is she never puts on clothes. She wears a swimsuit the whole time. She decides to like randomly go do yoga, but like gets really sweaty when she's like only in the like sun. She never lifts a finger to do anything around camp. And this was really confusing to me because the first season I hated her because all she did was just knock men out one by one because they trusted her because she was really pretty or whatever. Or they were just the absolute biggest idiots in the world. Because, like, kind of the Bachelor stuff that I just never understood is, like, you have 7 men competing for Parvati's attention, but she just wants money, and they can't right. fathom that. So the first season, I hated her. Then I watched her in a second season, and she did the same thing, and it worked very well for her. I don't want to give any more spoilers past that. And then I watched her in a third season, and she does the same thing, but they're on to her this time. So what's really interesting about this is everyone's constantly going Parvati first. The very first vote, they decide that Parvati needs to go. And what's interesting is Parvati does not go she makes it to the very end. I won't even say how far, but she makes it all the way to the freaking end. And what I decided about Parvati is that she has one strategy. Everyone knows what it is. But the only thing that it could possibly be, because the women don't really feel threatened by her despite it, and the men obviously want to keep her around, she must be an unwavering ray of sunshine at camp. And from like different edits that I've took away, she never wavers. She never complains about being hungry once, not thirsty, never losing. She complains about absolutely nothing. She is smiling constantly. The women trust her. The men trust her. And even in this season where everyone knows not to trust her, she makes it to the end by being so beautiful and likable and kind. That's her strategy. Course, it's amazing.
This is my strategy, obviously.
It'll work for you.
And I think this is like because I one of the first things I thought is like, so very early on, my question is, are boobs a strategy?
Yes.
And it seems like sometimes, but it seems like, I mean, also especially in China where everybody, like you said, Kyle, I think the gimmick is being wet and miserable. By like day 5, there is nothing sexy left about anybody.
You're absolutely right in that.
It's like how much person is left behind your mud is the question.
That's kind of why I think it's more I think it's the fact that like by the time most people are 20 days in, they're freaking miserable and nobody wants to be nice to each other. So if you're somehow the person who's still being nice and making people feel good, it probably goes a long way.
I swear, though, this woman, 3 seasons into Survivor, rain, sunshine, doesn't matter. Like, literally, she will eat nothing and not complain. It will pour, not complain. She will not sleep that night, and she will not complain. Not only will she not complain, she will get up, do yoga, smile at everyone. And I've seen like in clips and stuff, she flirts with the women, she flirts with the men. And it's not just like flirting. It's like, wow, you're really so amazing at that thing that you do. And you are so smart. And you're this. And like, nobody wants to get rid of her because they like having her around. I could never do this, but I cannot imagine like the sheer amount of like admiration I have for this woman who plays the most fascinating, unique game of Survivor, and it works for her all the time, which is just like, she is brilliant. She is smart and easy go. I can't with this woman. I'm so fascinated by her because it could never be me.
Kyle,
ever.
This is the
Kyle, who's your favorite character?
Bob.
Also, I hate Parvati. I hate Parvati, just so you know. Just need to make that clear. Not my favorite character or person. Hater.
Just because the fake idols? Just because the fake idols, Kyle?
I also just like him. Like, he literally is just, he just seems like he's like a, I'm just happy to be here, the person.
Yeah.
He is. Like, he's just everyone's like kind, like, grandfather just there. He just like collects stuff and somehow it just works. He goes like a really long way on just like being the guy that's only contributing, and I guess it's kind of similar to Parvati, actually. He just doesn't seem like he complains much or like puts up much of resistance to anything. And I can't remember, it's been a long time since I saw his season. Later on, he starts getting in a hot water with some people just because he has to make voting decisions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he has to start playing the game at some point.
But I think most people just end up liking him. He doesn't want to send people home.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where it's like Bob has been so honest and trustworthy, but it gets to a point where you have to tell people that you're going to keep him around and then not. You have to.
He's really nice, but then he also has just this little tiny hidden, like, I'll do what I have to side underneath all of it, and it's really interesting to watch.
I like him too because he's genuinely a good person. You see that throughout the whole thing. And then at the very end, like 5 people left, and it's like Bob's kind of talking about what he's going to do, and he's like, it's $1 million. You know, you don't blame the man.
Like, it's now Boston Rob appreciation time here.
No.
Okay, this man is, first off, never not playing the game. His eyes are thinking all the time. You can see it on his face. This guy knows this is a game and he wants to win. I relate to this. Second, he is the only returning player I believe actually like ratchets and like adjusts his gameplay between seasons. He's like, okay, I was too mean and I didn't get the jury vote the first time. So let's come back and just be nicer and like try not to be as controlling.
Yeah.
All right, that didn't work. So I'm going to come back and I'm going to try to take control, but I'm going to be more friendly.
Yeah.
Gets got in the Heroes vs. Villains when he comes back for that. He's leading, but he's not being like a scumbag.
Right.
Unlike other people with a fedora. And then he comes back again. He's like, okay, I figured it out. I know how to play this game. And he plays a perfect game and doesn't come back. They actually hire him in a later season to be, the gimmick is that he is on an island by himself and he gives you how to play Survivor lessons.
It's true.
Right. You see, this is my issue with Boston Rob. So first off, past his first season, it doesn't matter. He's only here for the franchise because he marries the person who wins.
Yeah.
He won Survivor.
Oh, I forgot he's that guy.
It is. Yeah.
As he says, the greatest alliance he's ever made.
Right. But it's such a, like, first off, it's so he proposes to her right before the decision is revealed, right?
Right.
It's one of the two of them. So he already knows he's in on the money. It's such a disingenuous time to propose.
First off,
and
it is the best television.
It was good.
Sure, but the point is like after this, after he's already in on $1 million. So anything he does past this point is just for continuing fame in the Survivor franchise. This is just like the like. I don't know how it works, if it works the same way that RuPaul does, but I'm imagining by the time you come back a second time, you're already in on sponsorships. You're already in on meta rewards.
Sure. And
so that means that all you have to do is play. Playing a good game of Survivor doesn't matter anymore.
Right.
Yeah, I'm
my
with
one
you.
last quick thing about him, though. There is a scene in the season that he wins where he has got his cult. They are in effect. They have like removed one of the last of the remaining other tribe, and he wins a reward for his team and takes them to a volcano for volcano sledding and a picnic. Right? He gets the idol clue. He gets the idol clue out of the picnic basket and then does a confessional at the top of the volcano. And he goes, I've got this game so won. This is the clue for the idol. I don't need it. Throws it into the volcano.
Of course,
He's like, it's gone. No one's finding it now. And that's
a cult
biggest.
leader. That's a cult leader.
That is the biggest swag move I've ever seen. Ever. There are other villains that come on this game and they make jokes and they're like, man, immunity idol, it's going to make a really cool souvenir at home. I don't even need it, right?
Yeah.
But they still bitch out at the very last tribal and they're like, actually, Jeff, I'm going to play this immunity idol, right?
It does happen.
Nobody until that point had ever taken the immunity idol and just been like, I don't need it. Threw it into a volcano.
This is, again, speaks to the fact that Boston Rob is not a player. He's a phenomenon.
There's still 7 players playing this game.
Right. At that point, if you do not immediately take this person and vote them out, you're
Yes.
Yeah, I mean that's the
There's
thing.
a reason
That's
he
the problem
has
with
not come
Boston
back.
Rob is who else was good in any of his seasons. You can't remember because it was a season full of boring people.
Amber was
right?
very
Okay,
good.
Amber. But that's what I'm saying.
about
Like in
the
Boston
all
Rob seasons, it's not
return
fun.
season?
It's just Boston Rob has a bunch of chickens that follow him around and does whatever he wants. Who's worth watching?
Also, when he gets voted out in Heroes Villains, right? He gets got by Russell by the idol. He gets idled out because the infamous Tyson votes him. Like Tyson can't count. The infamous Tyson can't count. He walks over to Russell, puts his hand on his shoulder, and says, "You are a small man," and then just walks off. And it's like, it was just like the hugest thing ever.
That's true. Boston Rob, I'll admit, Boston Rob has big dick energy, but I hate the guy.
I don't feel like I got nearly enough of an image of who this guy was from the
You
Heroes
don't.
versus Villains
He's
series.
no, you gotta, yeah.
He was so nothing in that.
Ian, who's your favorite player as a Survivor?
Okay, my favorite. So I have a favorite, but it's not anybody whose name I can remember. On the Boston Rob season, there's a guy who wins the fan favorite million.
Oh, okay.
The fan favorite 100,000, yeah.
Whatever. Yeah.
Oh.
The Christian
He's
boy.
my favorite. What?
That's the Christian boy.
Is it? He's just a guy, big guy with the beard.
Oh, okay. In the Heroes Villains one.
I've never seen
Rupert.
Heroes Villains. Maybe
Rupert, he makes the
You
death
said,
token.
wait, hang on. Ian, you said Boston Rob's
maybe.
season, the guy who wins the
Maybe.
fan favorite money, right? Because they used to do that. They used to have people who, if you had a fan favorite, you either...
Oh,
go
no,
ahead.
okay. My very favorite Survivor player of all time is Ken. Obviously.
The melee player.
Of the melee player.
Oh,
yeah.
he's on he's
Ken!
on the season that I'm talking about. He's with Bob.
Ken!
Yeah,
He's not on Bob's season.
Yeah,
yeah.
Oh, Ken, the Asian guy.
Yeah.
That guy...
Yeah, they talk around him a lot. He's a popular esports player. No, he plays
Okay.
melee. I watched the season because Ken
Ken's
was on
great.
it, and at a certain this is during the transition between melee and brawl, right? At a certain point, Ken trips.
Oh,
And that's all I needed because tripping was a huge mechanic they brought into brawl.
yeah.
And so Ken trips, and all my message boards just went crazy. Ken tripped. He's playing the mind game. Oh my god! Anyway, Ken's my favorite.
Do you think the editors did that on purpose? Do you think they knew somehow?
No, it was definitely not an intentional trip. It was a very
No,
embarrassing.
I wonder if the editors put that in there on purpose.
Oh, I hope so. Yeah.
I liked Ken a lot,
question.
actually.
Before I have to find 25 minutes to edit out of this, how far do you think you could go in Survivor, and how far do you think the rest of us could go?
Oof.
Who wants to go first?
Here's what I have to offer. All right.
Sure.
I'm really really good at working without sleep because I never get sleep.
Yeah,
This
true.
is good for Ian.
And I'm really really strong in endurance.
That's very true. I bet you could actually nail a lot of the endurance challenges.
I bet you could, actually. That's a good point.
That said, I have no idea how to play the game, as evidenced. I have no head for alliances. I have no social game, so I'm out in the first 3 episodes.
Yeah.
I think I could probably. I think I could make it to the merge, but I think the second it becomes not people relying on me and the things I could contribute anymore, I'm out. I don't think I could do the whole I can't do the politics of it. I would get stressed out too much. I'd get too in my own head. I'd make some giant mistake and I'd get voted out.
And so I think Kyle makes top 3.
I can see it.
Ricky, you make it to just before pre-merge, and then everybody gets suspicious of how sorry.
I was actually thinking that I either die on merge day or I die on Final Four fire making because I don't have the hands for that.
Right? It's either I think you people go, nah, he's too meta, and they get him.
You would have to be careful to not
Allison,
reveal how much you know, Ricky. That'd be for sure.
I can't wait to hear
Right.
this.
Okay, Allison, you either are first out or you win it.
Right, okay, so I have 2 answers for this. So one, I'm a hypochondriac, so the first questionable bug bite I get, I'm out. I'm just like, I couldn't make it.
Medivac.
Yeah, no, like second something looks like infected, I gotta go. Maybe like a bad sunburn, doesn't matter. I just won't be able to handle it. Survivor's not for me. Now the other answer where that's not a problem, me 3 years ago, I think I could actually make it pretty far.
Yeah.
I think that,
You'd probably be pretty good at
I think I'd probably be one of the first 2 to go at the merge. I think people think I'm up to a lot of shit all the time. They look at me and they're like, she's shifty. And I don't think I'd make it.
I think this is like. I think you're strong. I think you're no bullshit. You're straightforward, but I don't think you come across as being up to secret alliances. You think I'm up to that bullshit? And like, no, actually, now that you've said it, no, I absolutely.
Yeah, there's a player named Michaela. I would have my one big fuck up moment probably. It would be really hard for me to sit in tribal while people just lied around me. I don't know when that would get me out, but at some point I would just out everything, which has gotten, and most of the time it does not work, but it'd be really hard for me to not be like, yo, these people right here, they're playing the whole game and like puppets, you're all puppets. It's just so hard not to rage quit Survivor that I don't think I could make it that far. If that happened, If it was a Boston Rob season, I'd leave. I'd just be like, I don't want to do this anymore.
I actually think Ian can make it pretty far just purely
Ian could make it pretty far.
Endurance. I think it's. I think there's
really
this
depends on
great
the gimmick,
trait
too.
in playing RimWorld. All of the best characters, the ones that survive, are the ones that are labeled has very low standards. And I feel like Ian would be able to make it through the sleeping and the lack.
I think we all lose to Gatsby.
Oh, Gatsby. He's the ultimate alliance.
Anyways, guys, this has been fun. I love getting Kyle and Allison in on this one with Ian doing all the Survivor stuff. This is you guys' favorite game show ever? Kyle and Allison? Great. This was a lot of fun. I love watching this show. I will continue to watch this show. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until next time, I don't have an ending phrase, so think of something better. Meta Game Show host. Bye.